Alright, I think we're back for good. I think my little internet hiccup's finished for the moment. That was, really irritating, but, thank you for that. So, yes, thank you very much, for bearing with the tech difficulties. We're back now. Although I just realized I gotta wait for, No, you know what? No, we're not waiting. I would assume you're all here, so, as in the audience. The audience is still all here, I think, so... Fuck it, we keep going. Alright. Read that line over again, please.
You're gonna have to share on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it died that hard for me, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking internet.
Alright. It's nice and peaceful here. I wonder what it would be like to have grown up somewhere like this, rather than in the city.
You come from the city?
Looks like I found something she wants to talk about.
Yeah. I was
You cut out a bunch in that reading.
Yeah, you could say I was a city kid through and through.
Better.
It sounds like a lot changed.
It did. I'm still not quite sure what to make of all, though it's a bit of a culture shock in more ways than one. You must have gone through something like this when you first arrived at Yamako, right? I'd imagine most new students would.
Not really.
Hanako gazes a little to the side, looking unwilling to go on. I tilt my head inquisitively, but a couple of seconds pass with no further answer.
But can't we deal with that on Monday? The fallout is hardly settled from the last. I understand. I'll try to talk her down. You know what she's like when she gets locked onto an idea. Yes, thank you. I'll talk to you later then. Goodbye.
Well, this conversation ends with the snap of her phone closing. She returns to her table, but doesn't take her seat.
Need to go?
Fortunately, class representative calls once again.
I can come with you.
It's alright, Hanako. I'll just be going straight to the student council. There's no need to spoil a fine evening on my account. Besides, if you were to accompany my way back to school, who would keep our poor Hisao company?
Okay.
I can join you two for tea again. I can join you for tea again later tonight if you like. I may well need it.
We agree on that plan, and Lily says her farewells to the both of us, taking her cane after Hanako passes it to her. Despite my offer to pay for Lily's share, she insists on giving us her portion of the bill, and gives her regards to Yuko as she takes her leave. And then, we're alone. It may be all well and good to leave Hanako and me alone to have some time together, but all it typically means is the two of us sitting near each other in silence for a while. I wonder what it must look like to Hanako. I never thought of myself as a scary person, but to have someone my own age acting this way around me makes me intensely self-aware, as if it's my fault she's so troubled. She might get more used to people if she were to stop being so cloistered in Yamako, but then again, when even much older people than her react so strongly after a single glance at her face, she may well feel the same way I do now. It's a real catch-22. If she stays in Yamaku, she won't get used to socializing, but if she leaves, any efforts she might try would get thrown back at her by the people who can't deal with her scarring.
Want to order something else to keep us going? We haven't had much of a dinner after all.
Hanako brightens and nods vigorously, glad that I brought up the topic for her. I catch Yuko's gaze and she dutifully comes over to take her orders.
would you like something else?
I'll just have a sandwich special and a hot chocolate. Bit late for coffee by now. Hanako?
I'll have the same.
With a nod and a bow, Yuko turns on the ball of her foot and returns behind the counter where she busies herself fishing out bread and condiments and working the machine to make our drinks. Not a word is said between us until Yuko comes back. She smiles and gives us our food and drinks before moving to a customer who has called for her attention. I give up on the prospect of having much of a conversation with my companion and decide to just enjoy the meal, small as it may be. It tastes nice, as does most of the food here. After having a few mouthfuls, I notice something's missing, namely the sound of Hanako eating. Looking back to her, I see Hanako fidgeting a little behind her untouched sandwich.
Not hungry?
She shakes her head from side to side. Even if she does, the patch of hair she keeps over the right side of her face still does its job hiding it almost entirely.
It's not that.
Huh. I was all ready to have your share too.
You looked troubled. Is something wrong?
I'm startled by her thinking that I'm the one who looks troubled, but on second thought she's probably right. My face may have given away my emotions without me noticing, and she's hardly a dim person. Quite the opposite.
We're friends, right?
Friends.
From the tone of her voice and shrinking posture, it looks as though I've hit yet another landmine. This is another reason why interacting with her is difficult. The self-imposed psychological barrier she puts up between herself and others, including me and most likely even Lily. It's a shame that...
I think that we are.
I'm a little taken off guard by Hanako's straightforward answer. All the more so since I was about to give up on getting any reply at all.
See.
Am I wrong? Sorry,
No, it's just... hearing confirmation of that from you is reassuring. To pick up on what you said earlier, since coming to Yamaku, I've been a bit uneasy about how I should relate with others.
I found myself chuckling a little. It's surprising how much of a relief that was. I can feel my face smiling as I pick up my cup of hot chocolate and bring it to my lips.
Ouch. It's hot.
That's why I haven't eaten yet. I was waiting for my drink to cool down first.
I guess I'll wait then.
The both of us share a little chuckle. The situation isn't really that funny, but for some reason, it feels like laughing is the most natural thing to do right now. I guess we were both a bit wound up about each other. I was so busy thinking Hanako was the one with something wrong, it took her to remind me that I was uneasy as well. But be that as it may, it still feels a little nice. A little nice to have someone thinking about me like that in her own way. Following a long, quiet trudge up the hill into the school grounds, the two of us found ourselves between the two dorms. Regular night patrols pass between the male and female dorm buildings, both for security and to quickly raise the alarm for any medical issues that may arise. The guard currently on duty notices us and gives a quick nod as he continues on his way. A loud yawn escapes from Hanako's mouth before she has a chance to cover it. I have little doubt she's fairly tired by now.
I'd better be off to my room, then. See you tomorrow, Hanako.
Good night.
We separate and begin to walk to our separate ways before I stop and look back. Hanako stands there, waving to me as she smiles. I smile back and wave at her, and after a few seconds she turns and walks up the stairs to our dorm building, disappearing through the door. These little moments we share between us feel like a small treasure. One thing is sure. I want to protect that small, delicate smile she so fleetingly wears around so few people. I wonder about these feelings I have when Hanako's around, and when I'm able to do things for her, whether they be the seed for something beyond what we share now. Good question. This scene. So, unfortunately I had a special guest lined up for the scene, but she never, turned in her line, so I'm afraid one of you two is gonna have to, play for her.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got this. I believe in you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pat.
I can't do voices.
It's okay. Your voice is fine.
I'm literally talking to myself half the time.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Exactly. Anyways, the summertime sun is something to be savored, but when you mum with the clean country air, it's all the better. The track and field club members are horsing around on the field ahead. Some are playing with a soccer ball, others are talking, and a few laugh as two of them mock fight with each other. None of them pay me any heed as I sit alone on the grass underneath the shade of a particularly large tree. It's a nice and peaceful moment after a dreary day of schoolwork. I played soccer pretty often before my heart attack, so I thought it would be really nostalgic to watch them. What I'm feeling now, though, is quite distinct from that emotion. I hear footsteps approaching from behind me, and I turn to my side to see one of my classmates taking a seat beside me. I'm taken off guard, as the two of us haven't talked much before, and I didn't think anyone would notice me here.
Up.
Hi, Mira, wasn't it?
Deep breaths.
Okay, just... just call me Mickey. Surnames are too stuffy.
Likewise, then.
You're doing good, it's alright. We both look back out to the field where the guys are playing. It looks like they're getting ready to have a second game, with people spreading out to their positions and the ball being carried to the center of the field. Sure enough, the whistle's blown to begin the match and they get right back into it.
Not going to play?
Nah, just gonna rest for a bit. What about you? You kinda looked like you wanted to play when you were watching us before.
So someone did notice me after all.
It's kind of a long story.
Her face says it have piqued her interest.
I'm in Yamaku because I got a heart condition. I can't really play soccer anymore.
Wanted to be a soccer player, did ya?
No, I only really did it for fun. My friends played it, so I played it as well. Any of those guys playing around could have been me before my accident, but I don't feel like I have any real wish to go back to that either. It's a little hard to explain.
I'm still decently physically built from the days when I played, even if my strength's largely left by now, and I got on well with the other club members. When I think about it, I should feel pretty bad watching people play when I can't anymore, yet I don't. Maybe it's a good thing, a sign that I've gotten over it and that I'm ready to become a new person.
Sorry, I'm kinda rambling.
Cool. I'm actually glad to hear that. Sounds like you really have your stuff together. Some of you that come to Yamaku were pretty messed up at first.
Oh, you're a member of the track and field club then?
Yup. Been it since I first arrived.
Don't suppose you're friends with Emmy? Short, fast runner, no legs. I don't think there are all that many female track and field members.
And everyone knows about her, don't they? But nah, I tend to get on better with guys, so me and Emmy don't really talk much. Anyway, what about you?
Oh, well, I'm not really in any clubs. Real clubs, anyway.
You've been hanging around with Hanako on that blonde Amazon though, right?
Blonde Amazon. I suppose Lily has the height to fit that description, if nothing else. I nod in response without making too fine a point of things.
Don't worry about it. As long as you got some friends, you don't need to join a club.
A loud whistling from the field attracts our attention. One of the players is on the ground, clutching his leg, and the others stop play to jog up to him, leaving me grimacing.
Ah, that looks painful. Like I really has bad luck.
As she continues to look out onto the field, I cannot be reminded of her own injuries. Her left arm, ending in a stump rather than a hand, has been bandaged up for the entire time I've been in Yamaku. And her injury doesn't seem that new. She turns to talk to me again and catches me looking. Both of us sit in awkward silence as she takes her bandaged arm and holds it in her lap with the other remaining hand.
Sorry. I guess I'm still a bit...
Fine, really.
Her tone is light, but neither of us say anything afterwards. Every disabled student here has their own way of dealing with their problems, and some finding their conditions troublesome is only natural. I'm included among them, after all. The injured guy from the soccer game manages to get onto his feet with some help, and ends up hobbling off the field with one arm over the shoulder of another for support. Probably just pulled a muscle if he can still manage to walk. The whistle blows again, and the game continues once more with one less man on the field.
Hanging with Hanako and that blonde girl. She keeps some pretty strange company.
How so?
It's just that Hanako's kinda... I don't know.
Shy?
No, it's not really that. It's just... she's got some issues, I think. I can't really put it in a nice way. Not that I don't think she's a nice person, though. She's perfectly nice. Just... hard to deal with.
It sounds like Miki, or at least some other people in my class, have tried to get closer to Hanako in the past, and then it didn't go well. I think her judgment's rather harsh, given that everyone, not just those in Yamaku, have their own issues. Then again, I haven't known Hanako for that long, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was some stuff I didn't know about.
I'll just take it as it comes. She's a nice person, and I think that should be all that matters.
Miki's eyes narrow a little, and her smile spreads.
You really like her, don't you?
Miki certainly doesn't mince words. Ignore the fact that I picked that once before. I was saving this for this run.
Let's go!
To be completely honest, yeah, I do. I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell anyone.
Hey, whoa, you can trust me. No problems there. To be honest, I think it's kinda cute. If you wanna go for it, don't let me stop you.
Thanks.
She may say that, but she was just talking about Hanako having issues. Still, I want to hold myself to the words I said. Hanako's problems don't matter. I'll deal with anything that comes up, because I want to help her. If there's even the smallest possibility that I can pull Hanako out of her depression and seclusion, then I should work towards that, no matter what. If she needs a prince, then I'll be that prince. As I think about the possibility of a relationship, I can see Miki grinning at me while watching my face. I'm no doubt blushing and looking away from her only makes her laugh. Miki gives off a different vibe from the other girls. Talking to her feels more like talking to a guy than a woman. Hearing her say she prefers male company doesn't help to dispel that notion either. Glancing at my watch shows that lunch break is ending in only a few minutes. Time to start heading back to class.
Lunch is about to end. Wanna head back?
Yeah, we'd better.
I pick myself up off the grass and dust myself off, offering a hand to Miki to help her up as well. She takes it and easily pulls herself up, showing the muscles moving in her toned, bare arms in the process.
Come to think of it, why aren't you wearing the normal girls' blouse?
Yeah, it's too hot and it's too hot and constricting. The boys' uniform's better anyway.
She throws her arms around a bit to emphasize her point, which has the side effect of showing off one particular part of her body that would be especially constricted by the blouse. The two of us start the walk back to the main building to the gardens, talking as we go.
Sounds like you're settling well. That's a relief. It's pretty surprising to get a transfer student at this point in the year, considering the exams are coming up.
Don't remind me.
Don't worry about it then. Just cram it and you'll be fine.
That doesn't sound like good advice.
She clasps my shoulder a couple of times as she grins. I don't think she takes school very seriously.
You seem like a smart guy. And Mutou's taking a liking to you well already. You're like an ant in a glove.
Now, to work out whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I still don't know what to make of the school. I've been here a few weeks already, but I still feel dazed at times.
You'll get used to it. Just give it some time. It's only high school, just like any other.
She makes it sound so simple, but I've never thought about it that way. To me, Yamaku symbolized a marked shift in my life. I was no longer normal. I was different and was to be educated with other different people. And yet I'm walking back to class and talking casually with a classmate during lunch after watching the others play a soccer game. All perfectly normal. Maybe she has a point. Maybe I should just look at Hanako in the same way. Everyone has their own issues. This is hardly something unique to Yamaku. After all, it's only a high school, just like any other. As we continue to talk, I find myself smiling. Miki and I are very different people in almost every way, but it feels good to have gotten to know another classmate a bit better.
Oh god, that's so embarrassing. I'm sorry.
You did fine, don't
Oh,
worry.
you did a great job.
A light breeze blows the scent of early summer around my head while I wait for Lily. Small white clouds litter the sky, breaking up the monotony of the blue.
Isao, are you here?
Lily's voice floats on the breeze as if they were one and the same thing. I stopped gazing into the sky to examine Lily. With a peach off-the-shoulder sweater and tan ankle-length skirt, in addition to tan sandals, she's quite a nice sight.
Yeah, I'm over here, Lily, near the gate. Were you able to sneak away from Hanako?
Yes, it's not uncommon for me to go out during weekends, so I don't think she noticed anything suspicious. That, and she has someone she sees.
Lily purses her lips as if she maybe shouldn't have continued. I find it a little hard to believe.
Hanako's seeing someone? Really?
No, it's just... she sees a therapist every so often on weekends.
Oh. Well, that does make a lot of sense.
Lily rubs her arm uncomfortably, and after one look at her troubled expression, I quickly move to change the topic away from Hanako.
Huh.
Yes?
I was just wondering, you can get around the city on your own?
Lily sighs with my consternation surrounding the topic of her blindness. I'm my own worst enemy sometimes.
I can, yes. It's easier now with their friend and my sister, though.
I wonder how Lily gets along with her sister. Being an only child, it's hard to imagine what having a sibling would be like, so it makes me a little envious of her.
Right. Well then, the bus arrives in a few minutes, so we should probably get a move on.
Indeed. It's a long way you've missed this one.
With that, we set off for the bus stop on the hill. It's only a small distance from the school gate, so it's very convenient.
It's a nice view from here, coming from the city. I never really got to see scenery like this, let alone on a daily basis.
This area is nice for me as well. It's tranquil and away from the noise and smells of the city.
Lily's head perks up in a trademark gesture of hers, signifying that she's caught a sound.
Oh, here comes the bus.
I look down the road to see the bus trundling up the hill. Her hearing's quite a useful tool. The bus only takes a short while to reach the bus stop, forcing its way up the road, and within a minute, we're on our way to the city. Walking around the city, I feel a distinct nostalgia. The smells, the traffic, the tall buildings everywhere. It's a lot like my native city, save for the raised walkways. It feels a little weird, walking around a city as casually as I would in a park, but with cars rushing around underneath me. As I'm busily pondering the engineering marvel that is the raised walkway, I get a surprise. It takes a moment for me to realize that Lily's wrapped her arm around mine, extending her cane in front of her with her other hand. For a moment I'm startled, but I managed to keep enough of a lid on it for Lily not to notice. While it's not the first time that Lily's relied on me for guidance, she'd only held onto my sleeve's cuff before. It's logical that it would be easier for her to navigate a crowded and complex area such as the city while securely linked, but I'm far from being as used to this kind of contact as Lily is. Finally realizing the growing silence between us as Lily waits for me to get moving, I quickly kick my brain into gear.
You know, it was quite a surprise that Hanako likes to sing. Have you ever heard her do that before?
I have indeed. We've been to karaoke sessions several times, along with my sister. I can't say I take to the activity much, but the other two like it.
Maybe Hanako doing karaoke is more fitting than I initially thought. Just her and those she knows all alone in a little room. It would give her a rare chance to let her guard down with nobody else there to judge her.
Maybe it would be nice to bring her into town for a karaoke birthday party, if she likes doing it.
I'm not sure she would deal very well with the excitement.
I moved to protest, but her face shows that she's mulling the proposal over some more. It takes quite some time for her to come to a conclusion.
Then again, the best thing we can do for Hanako at this point is try to create some pleasant birthday memories. Continually treating her as if she's abnormal wouldn't help.
I think you're right. If she has something to remember apart from loss, then maybe she'll come around.
If we bought her something nice that she could see every day, then maybe we should be able to take her mind off her past and remember that she has friends. And in any case, I think Hanako can handle something like this. In the time I've spent beside her, I've learned that she isn't quite as frightfully fragile as I first thought she was.
Oh, shall we be off? I'm not really sure about the layout of this area.
Very well. I might like to suggest having something to eat though first.
I haven't either, so that sounds like a good plan.
Make sure you choose a nice place, Hisao.
She gives a teasing smile, one that makes me smile reflexively in response, even if she can't see that.
I'll make sure. I'll make very sure I do. Don't worry about that.
Once inside, I order 2 slices of pie and accompanying cups of tea and take them back to our table. I'd peg this cafe as a type to appeal to Lily, small and quiet but well-kept and somewhat upscale. Going by the dainty smile she wears, I don't really know if I chose right. It's very, very rare to see her not see her smiling after all. Nevertheless, I take a seat near her at one of the corner tables and lay down our small meals. Lily gingerly brings her head over to the slice of pie Big placed in front of her, delicately taking in the aroma.
Lemon pie, is it? Thank you, Hisao.
No problem. He's just next to it, so be careful not to knock it over.
She nods appreciatively, but judging from the slightly weak smile she has, the warning wasn't really necessary. I suppose the sound must have tipped her off to its position. We both tuck into our food without further ado, both of us remaining largely silent as we do so. Lily isn't the type to appreciate discussion while eating, and I can't say I like it either. Eventually, we finish both our meals, and the last of our teacups follows in short order. Lily's the first to break the silence.
That was very nice. I must say you've chosen quite well, Hisao.
This is the first time I've really had much of a look around the city, so all I could really do is choose somewhere that looked nice. Damn. Sorry.
I feel really bad for inadvertently bringing up the subject of cider on Lily, but she doesn't appear to mind much. Quite the opposite. She almost looks amused by my awkward attempt at an apology.
You are thoughtful, Hisao, but sometimes I fear it gets the better of you. There's no need to change your speech in my account.
Lily truly is pretty comfortable in dealing with her condition. I still hasten to change the subject, as I can't really say that I share her confidence in the matter.
You lived here for very long? It seems like you have this place pretty much sorted out.
She quickly waves her hand in front of her face to dismiss the notion.
It's nothing like that. I've attended Yamaku since the start of high school, but I didn't walk around the city very much because Akira, my sister, picked me up and dropped me off.
Oh, right. You mentioned not living in the dormitories until recently.
It's quite a surprise. I just assumed she'd been living here since entering Yamaku at least, which would give her a few years here.
I lived with my family for most of my life. Then I was just together with my sister. With my family having moved to Inverness, I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry, long before.
That reminded me I was going to have you just mentally autocorrect that to some similar Welsh city anyway, so...
And Akira working longer hours. I ended up having to move.
Yeah, this is our handling it. Remember, Lily's Welsh in our reading.
Yeah, right. I forget, sorry.
It's alright, it's alright. Yeah, well, it's not gonna be relevant again until we read Lily's route anyway, so relax.
What was the place?
Just name a city, any Welsh city.
Right. Cardiff's the capital, so go on.
Cardiff, alright.
Yeah, Cardiff.
Cardiff? Isn't that somewhere in...
I should probably have sorted this out before stream, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Wales?
Cardiff? Isn't that somewhere in Wales?
There we go. Thank you.
Oh, did I not tell you? My family currently lives in Wales, the birthplace of my mother. My father's side is mainly Japanese, though.
See, it's nice and easy. Huh. The question of what gave Lily her looks did cross my mind every now and again, but I never thought to ask. That answers that, then.
To be honest, I'd never have guessed. Considering you have no accent, I'm guessing you were born here.
Artistic license, just keep going. Keep on rolling.
Full marks. I am thankful for my heritage, though. As without it, I'd likely not have been taught English so early in my life. And what of you, Hisao?
What about me?
She gives a moment's thought. She probably should have thought of what to ask me before switching the topic.
I'll go with... What are your plans for the future?
To be honest, I haven't thought much about that recently. After my accident and subsequent months in hospital, enjoying my life here with you and Hanako has been enough for me.
In fact, I don't think I've thought at all about a future for some time now. It seems almost futile.
This is your last year of school. After this, you will have to fend for yourself one way or the other.
Not like I don't know that, I just haven't put much thought into it since then.
She opens her mouth to continue, but gives a small sigh instead. She seems to have realized that she really doesn't know enough about my situation to go too deeply into this.
Well, we all have our own pace. I just hope you'll take any chance you see.
I understand. I'll think about it.
As we walk back out into the city, Lily takes hold of my arm once again.
So, did you get any good ideas for a present?
To be honest, no. I've never been very good at picking them.
As absurd as it sounds, perhaps we should just... look around?
Hearing Lily utter those words throws me for a moment.
Right. How do we do that?
That's just the reaction I was expecting. It's simple. You can go window shopping, or just tell me what's around. If something interesting comes up, then we might get an idea.
Right. I'm still not so sure of this, but I'll take your word for it.
I think we'll manage. Hanako, my sister, and I managed to do it well enough.
With Lily's simplistic and rather optimistic statement, we set off into the shopping district of the city, and I start describing everything I see to Lily. It's hard to think of Hanako going window shopping. She doesn't feel like the type to place much stock in fashion, nor have I noticed her reading magazines and the like. In fact, all I think I've really seen her do as a hobby is read books.
There's a houseware shop just ahead. Looks like it's mostly crockery, though.
I can't think that she'd have much of a need for that. And what type of message would that send to her?
Cook more food? It's not such a bad idea, maybe.
Sometimes it's best to leave things alone, Hisao.
Once again, I get the feeling that Hanako's exploits in the kitchen aren't always successful. Lily must have to help her with that sometimes.
Let's see. Next along is a bookshop. That seems like a good one. She's always reading.
Yes, but there are a few problems with books. I'm not quite sure what she has and hasn't read.
What about a gift card, then?
There's nothing as impersonal as giving someone a gift card. It's like saying, I don't know enough about you to work out what you'd like.
I always thought of it as a making sure they got what they wanted.
Giving people gifts is supposed to show the level of affection you have for them. If you can't decide on a simple gift for them, then how much did you think of them?
Right. No gift cards.
Lily seems overly passionate about this, but I can see her point. If you're going to get something for someone, then you should put at least some thought into it. If I want to get something for Hanako that reminds her of us every day, then well, it's a gift card.
In that case, what did you get Hanako last year?
Porcelain doll. I thought that she has someone to talk to. It might help her ease her pain. A doll isn't ever going to criticize her after all.
So, should I be looking for a doll shop?
If you could be so kind to give out a lookout for one, I would be grateful.
Sounds good to me. Though, I wish you'd mentioned it earlier.
But if I did that, then you wouldn't have started thinking for yourself, would you?
Once again, Lily has a point. My brain's currently analyzing every story past for gift options. If Lily had mentioned a doll shop to begin with, I wouldn't have thought of anything else. We wandered through the city streets, but seem unable to find anything that resembles a doll shop or anything that I could consider a fitting present. The simple act of searching is starting to clear my head. The events of last week are starting to fade away, and I'm looking forward to giving Hanako her gift. If I can find one, that is.
This is hopeless. I thought we'd be able to find something in the city for sure. And I'm sure we've walked down this street at least once before.
That almost sounds like you're giving up, Hisao.
I'm not, but it's a lot harder than I thought.
Trying to be so restricted in your thinking. Maybe we should actually go into some shops and have a look around.
That might work. I've never really been any good at window shopping.
Lily and I circle around the city streets once more, this time popping into stores to catch our attention. In the end, though, nothing comes up as especially appropriate. Hanako's tastes are often quite hard to pin down at the best of times, thanks to her intensely private nature, and those tastes we do know are hard to accommodate.
Maybe take a break for a minute. I'm a bit exhausted.
I agree and leave Lily to rest against a railing while I go get a couple drinks from a nearby vending machine. After walking up to the vending machine and grabbing myself some lemonade, I find myself at a bit of a loss. Not really knowing Lily's taste, I decide to take a guess and grab something that seems a little girly but not too weird. Strawberry milk.
Back.
I walk up to her and place the carton into her outstretched hands, making sure she has a grip on it before letting go. She feels out its contours before opening it and taking a very tentative sip. Her approving smile afterwards telling me that I made the right choice. We both rest and have a quiet drink for a few minutes. A familiar soft ringing begins to sound from Lily's phone. She quickly apologizes as her hand goes into her pocket, pulling out her mobile phone.
You mind if I take this?
It's fine. Don't worry.
She nods to me in thanks before turning away and flipping the phone open, bringing it to the side of her face as she picks up the call. Going by the tone of Lily's voice, the person on the other end is no doubt some friend or another. I tune out of their conversation pretty quickly as the snippets that Lily say make it sound like a little more like gossip. With not much else to do, I find myself watching Lily. She really is a pretty girl, which would hardly hurt her popularity in school. It's interesting just how much Hanako and Lily contrast with each other in both personality and appearance. For a few minutes I just lean back and drink, watching her. Before long, Lily says her goodbyes to the person she's talking to and hangs up, placing her phone back in her pocket and leaning against the railing as before.
Sorry, just a friend from class.
I take one final swig from my can before throwing it into the bin. Lily gives me her carton to throw away soon after, finishing it off relatively quickly.
You seem to have a lot of friends.
Oh?
Lily waits for me to continue her interest peak.
I was just thinking that you and Hanako contrast really heavily. It's hard to imagine Hanako doing a lot of the things you do, or knowing the people you know.
You seem to think about Hanako quite a bit.
I don't know, it's just she's mysterious, I guess. I kind of want to know more about her, which isn't that easy.
It almost sounds like you're doubting your relationship to her.
I don't think it's just that. I just want to do more for her, being her friend and all. I don't even really know how she sees me.
This statement seems to interest Lily quite a bit. I wonder if Hanako said anything about me to Lily during our conversations. I'm about to ask what's on her mind as she picks herself up from the railing.
Shall we be off then?
Her voice and expression show that she's playing games with me. Lily knows damn well that she's leaving me hanging. With a sigh, I pick myself up off the railing as well and have a brief look around. We have stuff to do, so I'll just try and get back to her about this later. Tucked in between a newsstand and a convenience store is a small shop. The sign above the door reads, Othello's Antiques in decorative English script. It'd be easy to miss if we were walking along the street, but since we're stationary and I'm purposely looking around, it's just noticeable.
Hey, Lily. That doll you got Hanako, was it new?
Well, yes, but I'm not quite sure I know what you mean.
I think I found our shop. It's across the road.
Oh? What is it? Some kind of toy shop?
It's an antique shop. I think it's probably going to be our best bet.
Really? I didn't know we even had one of those near here.
Neither did I. I missed it the first time we went by here. It's pretty well hidden.
Well then, it can't hurt to check.
Inspired by this new find, we quickly dust ourselves off and head towards the store, Lily's hand finding its way into my elbow for guidance. The store has a strange, musky scent to it. The layout is more like a garage than a store. Things are strewn around the floor without any immediate semblance of order. The shopkeeper gives us an almost bored look through his particularly small eyes. His face looks weary and tired, and his dress style is distinctly anachronistic. He gives us a polite nod of welcome before going back to his book. Lily holds tightly onto my arm, and I find myself having to split my efforts between making sure we don't miss a potential gift for Hanako and making sure Lily doesn't inadvertently bump into anything. The task is quite difficult given the haphazard way the store is laid out and the many things poking out of the shelves they're on or sitting on pieces of furniture, but eventually we safely arrive at an old desk covered in dolls and teddy bears.
I think this is the right place. There's pretty much every kind of doll you could imagine here.
That should make the choice much simpler. Could you please pick one for me, Hisao?
I had a feeling it would come to this. I picture Hanako in my mind and try to imagine which of the dolls before me would suit her best. My eyes wander across the collection. Each one is as exquisite as the one before it. The sheer number of styles is boggling, but eventually one catches my eye.
Here, how about this one?
I pick up a small porcelain doll that looks to be at least somewhat affordable. Dressed in a Victorian-era green dress with a little brown hat sitting atop its blonde hair, it looks a little like Lily. I gently pass it to her, who delicately feels her way around the object while wearing a look of slight concentration.
It certainly feels beautiful. Do you think it would suit Hanako in your opinion?
I think it would. It could look good in a room.
In that case, I'll trust your judgment. I'll trust your judgment. Will you be getting us something as well, or shall this be a shared gift?
I'm not sure. I think I should get her something myself, but I don't think getting her another doll is such a great idea. Maybe.
I let my voice trail off as I look around the shop. Resting on a writing table not far from us is a decorative box that catches my eye.
Wait here. I think I found something.
My, that was fast.
I gingerly walk through a collection of crystal glassware and pick up the box. The wooden sides are covered in carvings depicting ancient battles around a castle. The top, however, looks far too familiar. Alternating squares of white and black varnished wood are arranged on the lid. That's a really nice item. It's a chest set from overseas. The store's owner's sudden appearance startles me a little. I didn't see him approaching at all. I suppose he's trying to help us because we don't really look like we know what we're looking for. Or, on the other hand, maybe he wants to keep an eye on us because he suspects we might shoplift instead.
I'm looking for a present for a friend.
I see. In that case, this chest set would make a fine choice. Realization floods into my mind. This is a pretty good-looking set, but this is an antique shop. They're not well known for their bargain prices.
How old is this?
This is a reproduction. My best estimate is that it's about 5 years old.
I see. How much?
He thinks a little before telling me, which is slightly disconcerting. I'll let you take this now for 7,000 yen. I balk a little. I wasn't expecting to spend that much, but this does seem perfect. Then again, maybe that's a testament to how well he worked out how much he could make me pay.
Could I make it 5,000?
5,500, no lower.
Sold. Oh, we'd also like to get that doll.
The store owner looks over my shoulder, focusing on Lily and the doll in her hands. His eyes narrow and he visibly takes a moment to switch mental gears. In the process, his smile drops slightly. I guess that means not everything in his store is a reproduction. Are you, quite sure you want that doll, miss?
Trust my friend's judgment.
I see, no offense.
None taken. If you would please wrap it for me, it would be appreciated.
Yes, of course, but it is 20,000 yen. Lily reaches into her purse and presents 4 crisp-looking 5,000 yen notes.
Here you are. 20,000 yen.
The storekeeper dutifully takes them and the doll and proceeds to the counter. I take Lily's arm to guide her there.
You sure about this?
It's okay. I have the funds I need. As I said, I trust your judgment.
I feel a little guilty on 2 fronts. Firstly, because Lily's just spent a lot of money on my recommendation. Secondly, because I have a feeling the value of my gift isn't high enough. Nevertheless, Lily does seem to get somewhat awkward whenever the mention of money comes about. I hand the shopkeeper my present and the money for it in turn. He puts the cash into the register before busying himself with wrapping the doll and repeating the process on the chessboard. Eventually, he finishes the gift wrapping and hands us both our presents. Please be careful on your way back, and do come again.
Thanks.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
The store owner bows deeply to us as we leave.
Well, it did take us all day, but we found something in the end.
That we did.
Now that the presents are wrapped, I'm feeling a little impatient to give them to Hanako. It's a common reaction to buying gifts, wanting to see the reaction of the receiver as they discover what it is. And part of me wants to return to Hanako just to confirm her condition with my own eyes.
Oh, should we head back?
Let's. We've done a lot of walking today, so I shan't mind taking a rest back at the dormitories.
Lily's right. Now that the need to find a shop is over, my legs are feeling pretty tired.
Well then, back to school for us. I'm looking forward to resting up for a bit too.
Lily holds out her arm and I link mine with hers. Together we make our way back to the bus stop. Alright. So, opposite of the, end of Act 2 right here. We, need to mentally prepare ourselves a bit, so, shorter intermission. 5 minutes thereabouts.
Sounds good to me.
We'll all be right back. Please bear with us. Thank you for your patience. See you in about 5 minutes. And we're back once again. Thank you for your patience. Alright. Let's just go ahead and jump right back into it then. Mutou reads equations and formulas to us one by one in his usual unenthusiastic monotone, directly from the book. It's possible that he might be excited about what he teaches us. Sometimes he can display an awkward spark of passion for it, as if he's starting to get into the material. Most days, however, are like this one. What we're covering is fairly simple, so I found it increasingly difficult to keep my concentration on him. It's not too long until my legs begin aching again, which only makes it even harder. I'm almost starting to regret walking around the city yesterday with Lily. Since leaving the hospital, I've done very little physical exertion. Walking to and from the local corner store hardly counts. Despite Emi's attempts when I first arrived in Yamaku, I've largely given up on the idea of ever returning to my old level of fitness. I have little doubt that's why walking around town for so many hours has made me quite so sore. It's depressing and reminds me of one more thing I can't do since I had my heart attack. It makes me feel pathetic. No, Ikezawa? It's odd for Mutou to ask Hanako a question, but not unheard of. She quickly jumps to her feet, a little startled, and immediately pins her eyes onto him. She knows that Mutou calling on her is rare, so all eyes around the classroom are going to be on her. This way she doesn't run the risk of making eye contact with anyone else.
Yes?
In this particular example of a redox reaction, the combustion of methane reaction actually produces one more product than is listed. That product is... Even though it's a softball question, she timidly waits a bit before answering, biting down slightly on her lower lip as if to keep her concentration.
Heat?
Well done. This is an exothermic reaction, with the reaction giving more heat than is put into it. Receiving a nod from Mutou, Hanako takes her seat once again and gives a relieved sigh. Shaky start, but it's something. It'll be nice to take her out for her birthday, somewhere different from the usual isolation of her room in the tea room. With the progress she's made until now, I don't think she'll have much of a problem going to the city. Right then, for the remainder of this class, I'd like you to work in groups of 3 or 4 on the problems in Chapter 12. I'll be here if you need me. Mutou sits down behind his desk, pulls some loose sheets out of a folder, and starts on some kind of paperwork of his own. I thought teachers were supposed to do that kind of thing after class, not during it. Regardless, I look to my right to pick out someone to form a group with. Given the 2 smiling faces hovering near mine, I don't think I'm going to get much say in the matter.
Suppose we have a group then.
Hee-chan, you want to work together? Okay, that's great. It's really been a while.
The class begins the process of noisily shuffling the desks around, with Shizune doing the same as she puts hers in front of mine. He's a little lucky to not be able to hear the din of the classroom, which is loud enough to cause him discomfort. Truth be told, working with Shizune and Misha is probably a good outcome. Shizune and I are pretty good at the subject, and Misha has really nice handwriting. As I look to Misha, I notice a tall figure behind her. The shadow catches Misha's attention as well, and she turns to face the dark-haired observer.
Good afternoon, Hanako.
Hello?
Shizune finally notices Hanako after looking up and following the gazes of Misha and I. In quick measure, she taps Misha on the shoulder to get her attention before signing away.
Shi-chan says if you're looking for a group, you can join ours.
Hanako looks down and blushes a little at the offer. Out of all the people in the class, Hanako is most familiar with the 3 of us, so it's reasonable she comes to us first. Then again, her actually coming up to a group with the intention of joining them is something that she apparently very rarely did before. She leaves briefly to drag her desk over, and Shizune and Misha wheel back to me as soon as her back is turned.
I guess we get to play again, Hee-chan. You hardly ever play with us anymore.
I wonder why. You 2 always seem to have ulterior motive.
Huh? That hurt, Hee-chan. I'd almost think you were insulting me. But it's Hee-chan, so I know that you're joking.
Such a great sense of humor about it. It'd be awful if someone were to take advantage of your good nature. Like, making you help them with their work.
Suzume seems excited for a second, a little surprised that I'm willing to challenge her, but when she sees Hanako coming back, she backs off with a smile. I guess the mind games are over early today. Hanako gently sets down her desk in front of Misha's. Her eyes are locked downwards, and I'm left wondering why until I look around the class. Most are busy setting up their own groups, but a few are casting curious gazes at her. At this range, it's hard to tell whether that is where their interest in her ends, or if they're talking about her as well. It's strange. No one bats an eyelid when Hanako runs out of class to avoid group work, but now that she's making an effort, they're staring at her as if she's done something wrong. We all move to sort ourselves out, spreading our textbooks and worksheets around the larger surface created by the four joined desks. It isn't long before the class as a whole gets down to work.
Hi, Hanako. It's nice to finally work with you.
Yeah.
Are you the reason Hee-chan has been avoiding us lately? Shi-chan says it's a little rude, but if Hee-chan wanted to spend time with a cute girl, it's understandable.
I don't think it's like that.
Hanako starts to fidget, unused to this kind of attention. I think that an ordinary person would drop the conversation by now, but Misha's like the antithesis of Hanako. Part of that includes being blind to ordinary social cues, while Hanako's overly sensitive to them. Because of that, Misha barrels ahead with the questions, too quickly for me to get a chance to interject and guide the discussion somewhere more comfortable.
Really? So, he wasn't hanging out with you yesterday?
No.
I can feel my cover being blown already. Lily didn't want Hanako to know that we were out buying presents for her, let alone planning on her birthday party. It wouldn't be good for her to find out.
Yeah, I was doing something else. You know how it is.
Really? I wonder what was so important for Hee-chan to blow us off like that. If it wasn't to spend time with Hanako, then what could it be? It's really interesting.
Now this is starting to feel like an interrogation. I'm surprised that Misha is able to exert such a feeling of pressure without actually intending to.
Were you with Lily?
Out of nowhere, Hanako manages to stumble on the answer. She may be dreadfully quiet and shy, but she is very intuitive.
What makes you say that?
Yesterday, Lily said something similar.
Ooh, suspicious. Hee-chan, I demand that you explain yourself.
Hey, shouldn't we be doing the assignment?
But it's so mysterious. Even Hanako wants to know.
I turned to look at Hanako. It's true. From the expression on her face, it's obvious that she wants to know as well, and I think we're past the point where I could weasel out of having to provide an explanation. I apologize to Lily in my mind. She really did want to keep it a secret, but now it doesn't seem possible anymore. I feel a rush of conflicting emotions so jumbled that I can't really identify them, but they crash around in my head as I try to calm down and speak.
Alright, I'll tell you. I went into town with Lily, but it wasn't what you think. Lily and I were, for Hanako's birthday, we were...
The cat's out of the bag, but it looks like Hanako's taking it a little better than I thought she would. A brief silence passes around our little group as Suzume and Misha look at each other sheepishly. I can tell that they didn't expect their game to turn out like this. Misha looks up to Hanako in order to apologize, then pauses. Hanako is staring at the middle of her desk and barely moving, a maudlin expression on her face. I guess I was wrong about her taking it well.
Hanako, I'm sorry.
There's a few seconds pause, but Hanako lifts and shakes her head.
It's okay.
Her expression looks odd, like she's very tired. That doesn't seem natural, but it's nothing alarming. Nobody really wants to continue with the current conversation, so we open our textbooks and begin our group work. This is pretty dull. While the equations we're supposed to work out as a group will take a while, most of it's going to be boringly mechanical. It also doesn't help that, while that didn't go as bad as it could have, it has left an awkward atmosphere around us. Still, we manage. Suzune's face betrays that she has about the same expectations for work as I do, and the two of us begin to write our group's results. Misa, on the other hand, is scrunching up her lips and very visibly trying to make heads or tails of what we're doing. Hanako is looking on quietly, absorbing what we write and what I say. She usually has the same expression on when the teacher speaks. It's a shame her attendance is so unreliable, but the way she takes in information, I think she'd do quite well in class if she actually followed the lessons regularly. I wonder if this might be why Shizune seems so hard on her.
Hey, Hanako, do you understand this?
Misa looks to Hanako, but I suspect her hope is more to find a comrade in ignorance rather than genuine help.
Not really, I guess.
I'm surprised by how tense she is in her answering, but she settles back down. She breathes out, and the way her upper body and head lower remind me of a deflating balloon.
You okay? I could go over this bit if you want.
Hanako shakes her head slightly, but then again, I don't think she needs the extra explanation, despite what she said. Misa quickly interjects, entirely oblivious, and I end up slowly going through how we ended up at one of our results, step by step. Times like this remind me that this kind of work may not be mechanical for everyone, but... might not be mechanical for everyone, but rather feels that way to me due to my grasp of the subject. It's a satisfying feeling. As Misa brings her bald fist onto an open hand in realization, I discover another nice feeling. My explanation got through to her, and she manages to work out the next equation by herself with a minimum of guidance. Throughout all of this, Hanako is unusually unresponsive. Sorry, one moment. Alright, she's normally very quiet, but one can still see her eyes roving periodically over the landscape of the classroom in front of her, anxiously moving her hands in some way or shifting her shoulders periodically. Right now, these small movements that I've gotten used to seeing are all missing. Someone not moving at all is definitely weird. Even Misa can tell there's something wrong.
Hanako, are you sure you're okay?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I'm fine.
A little more strongly this time, but she turns away as she says it. It only makes me doubt her answer, yet at the same time I can tell she doesn't want to talk about it further. Having already had one very awkward conversation today that I'm not still fully over, I don't want to pursue that matter too much either. We settle back into our routine, debating over our answers whenever a doubt comes up, but as time goes on, I notice that Hanako isn't talking at all. It's frustrating, she had made so much progress. It makes me a little angry at Shizune and Misa for undoing the surprise that they had wanted to keep secret so much. I know I'm at fault too. Maybe I could have kept it under wraps somehow. Shizune has noticed Hanako's silence as well and is almost also getting antsy. I can see it on her face. It's strange that even though she's deaf, Shizune has perceived Hanako's unusual quietness sooner than Misa.
Hanako, you're being too quiet. You have to contribute too. Someday we might work on a bigger project, like one that's so big it's worth celebrating afterwards, like with ice cream or cake. If you act like this, we won't take you along.
I can tell that they're trying to tease her to bring her out of her shell, but I don't think that kind of approach will work on Hanako. It'll just make her feel worse.
Don't tease her like that.
Aw, Hee-chan, it's all in good fun. Shi-chan says she teases everyone anyway.
They do back off, though, with Misa moving away from the issue by asking me a question again. I'm saying how difficult the problem that she's working on is. I don't know whether it was a skillful dodge or a mere coincidence. It takes way more of our time than necessary because Shizune keeps disagreeing with me when I'm trying to explain it to Misa, and Misa's quick to believe her over me. So quick, in fact, that she forgets to translate what Shizune is saying.
Hey, the clock is ticking down. We should speed up a little.
Hee-chan, you sound a little like Shi-chan there.
Just because I looked at my watch? Jeez, is that all? Is that really all it takes? Time management? Suddenly I'm the student council president?
I look at Hanako's desk to see how she's doing and freeze. Our papers are covered in equations, but Hanako's only halfway there. It seems like she hasn't written anything in the past 20 minutes. When I realize that, I want to kick myself for how dumb I've been. I should have known that someone as fragile as Hanako wasn't just going to brush off what happens so easily, but I've been too eager to move on from such an awkward situation to notice. She's been slowly shutting down for the last half hour and I had no clue. Her pen's still in her hand, but she doesn't slowly spin it around like she usually does. There isn't a single idle movement from Hanako. Only the fact that she tries to inch away once she feels Shizune Misa and me looking at her tells me that she's even still conscious. We look away, and at least in my case, it's probably enough shame that it's gotten to this point. Though on the outside she's shut down almost completely, I know there's a different story on the inside. What kinds of things she could be thinking about as she tries harder and harder to shrink into herself, as if by willing it she can somehow disappear. Everyone's looking at her now, stealing quick glances in between putting the finishing touches on their work. Misa attempts to ask her what's wrong, but that only makes the problem worse. If she weren't frozen to her seat, she probably would have run out of the room right now. Misa's questions are loud enough to be heard throughout the entire classroom, and for a second I'm ready to snap at her, because I can only imagine how much worse it's making Hanako feel. Of course, if I were to do that, that would only make the situation even worse. I'd believe that Hanako had gotten stronger, and she has, but it wasn't enough, and I was too eager to believe it. Now she's terrified, alone in the middle of the classroom, and there's nothing I can do without drawing more attention to her. It's infuriating. Misa's worried, and even Shizune's biting her lip. None of us know how to deal with this situation, so I decided to call Mutou. His judgment would probably be better than ours. I look up and manage to catch his eye, silently motioning for him to come over. I want to make as little of a fuss about this as possible, since if there's anything that would make this worse, it's more attention being focused on her. I know that Hanako can see everyone staring at our group, specifically at her, because I know that if there's a problem, it has to be her. Everyone knows her, and it's the first thing anyone's mind would leap to. Her reputation for being true has marked her as an unusual person, even in unusual Yamaku. Who knows how many times I've stared at her before? Maybe it's because she's seen the class staring at her so much that she fears their gazes like she does, cowering from them. The time it takes Mutou to walk over must be like an eternity to Hanako, and she looks as if she's about to fall over. Mutou quietly begins to ask us what's wrong before catching himself as he sees Hanako.
Did we upset her?
Don't worry. Mutou bends down after calling Misa and looks intently at Hanako's face. Hello, Ikazawa. Can I help you at all? His voice is hushed and gentle. Everyone's acting so differently around Hanako now that the whole class has noticed something's wrong with her. Hanako doesn't respond, so Mutou gently rests a hand on her shoulder. She starts shaking at his touch, but wouldn't even look up. Hanako continues to stare into the equations at her desk, so unfocused. Vision so unfocused that I doubt she even sees them. She's worse than before. I remember that not even an hour ago she was able to talk to him almost normally. Mutou grimaces a bit as he stands again, and now that his expression's changed, I can see he wasn't exactly unaffected by what happened either. He takes a deep breath to settle himself before speaking in a very quiet voice. I'm a little impressed at how quickly he takes control of the situation. Is that it? Nothing's wrong then? Mutou seems to say that to no one in particular. However, his words sound convincing enough that most of the people who are looking over at Hanako now turn away, getting back to their work. He gives a quick glance to his left and right. Several people at the desk around us are still staring curiously, but other than that, we seem to have escaped attracting too much attention. Mutou notices me doing the same as him and smiles a little in his usual stilted way. I think for Ikazawa's sake that it would be good to quickly take her somewhere away from the others. Nakai Akamichi, could you please take Ikazawa out of the classroom? Okay, everyone's settled, so please don't worry about anything but her. Okay. He looks at Misa to tell her to interpret his words for Shizune, but she's already finishing her translation by the time he does so. It's remarkable how little thought she needs to sign, and she still looks quite dazed otherwise. Nodding, Shizune and I stand and move to either side of Hanako. Mutou steps back to allow us some room and talks to the table behind us as some people there have begun to mutter between themselves what was going on. We look at each other before lowering ourselves in unison, taking one arm around each of our shoulders and lifting. The two of us begin to walk at a slow pace to make sure we don't inadvertently hurt her. As much as we try to make this look normal, I'm quite sure there would be many more gazes on us if not for Mutou's distraction. Eventually, thankfully, we reach the door and go through. Nobody's outside, so we walk down the hallway. Doesn't seem like it's making her more at ease than when she was in the classroom. Finally, I ask her if she just wants to sit down. For a while, we simply stay in place and wait for her to say something. Shizune tentatively rubs Hanako's shoulder a little, but there's no response. Eventually, she shakes her hand a little when Shizune tries again. Both of us are looking at her, so we pick up on it immediately. Shizune's hand again comes to rest on Hanako's shoulder as she awakens, her face lifting to two very worried and anxious people looking at her. She looks at us silently for a while. I'm initially worried she might freak out or do something extreme, but those fears prove unwarranted as her expression slowly changes from an almost lifeless blank slate to a more normal, withdrawn shyness. She wordlessly lowers her head, her eyes evasively moving to the side. She looks embarrassed, almost ashamed. I want to say something, anything to help. I can't, though. I don't really know what just happened or even what caused it. I feel helpless and ashamed of myself for not being of any use. She has a nice sighs before looking at me. Even without words, I think I can tell what she's asking.
I'll take Hanako to the nurse. Is that okay by you?
I try to communicate my intentions through hand gestures, but I don't feel like I managed to get through to her very well. Shizune makes a dreary face in response to my gesticulations, confirming my impression. She stabs her finger in the air decisively, first at me, then at Hanako, and then towards the stairs. She waits for me to nod before pointing at herself, then pointing at the door to the classroom. I get the feeling Shizune is much better at this than I am. I nod at her, but since her planet, after all, is the same as mine. Shizune gets ready to make their exit, but she only leaves after looking at Hanako for quite some time.
You okay with me taking you to the nurse's office?
Hanako doesn't say anything or nod, but she stands up in place by herself, and when I begin to walk, she obediently follows. I've read about people being catatonic before, but I think this time I'm seeing it for myself. She looks extremely tired, and after everything that's happened, it's not a surprise. After Hanako silently takes off her shoes and lies on the bed in the infirmary, the nurse and I take our leave. He shuts the curtain behind us. We both take a seat, and I quietly and thoroughly go through everything that happened in quite some detail. I want to understand what happened, and the nurse has as good a chance as anyone of knowing. He nods for all my explanation, his face looking troubled as I finished. Alright, so normally Bloom's supposed to play him, but unfortunately he didn't have time to pre-record, so you get my jank-ass impression of Bloom. Sorry to ruin the moment, but it must have been very troubling for you to have seen all this.
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. I get that she fainted, but I don't really understand anything about why it happened or why she's acting like this.
He nods, but his face is clouded.
You don't know either.
Well, yes and no. It's complicated. I assume you've heard about the concept of patient confidentiality at some point. This is a bit of a minefield in that respect. I'm going to put this pretty bluntly. This is a matter for Ikazawa, myself, and her therapist. I moved to protest, but I think better of it. I wanted to know what he says, but if I think this through rationally, then what he says makes perfect sense.
I understand.
Good, good. I wish I could help you more, but I think what KATAWA needs right now isn't somebody prying into her past or her emotions. She just needs somebody to be there for her. She needs a friend. For what it's worth, I think you've done well in bringing her here. Sounds like you and your friends dealt with the situation well, too. I'd give you a lollipop or a sticker as a reward, but you might be a little too old for either. He gives a cocky grin, obviously trying his best to lighten the atmosphere. I'm really not in a laughing mood, but he does manage to get a smile out of me.
Thanks. Do you mind if I stay here with Hanako?
I appreciate the thought, but it would be better to let her rest for now. She'll be let back to her dormitory room this evening, so you can visit her then. I agree with him before standing. It feels like all I can ever do around the nurses humbly agree on what he says, but it was the same with the doctors in the hospital, too. The walk back to the classroom was a long one, my mind feeling heavy under the weight of so many things happening so suddenly. Even as I ran out of the classroom, I'm thinking about Hanako. My stomach feels like it's turning into knots while I think about how to deal with her. I still don't know what I'm going to say to her when I see her again. Thankfully, the class doesn't pay me much heed. There are a couple of questioning glances, but overall not many people seem to be very aware of what happened. Mutou raises his eyebrow to get my attention when I pass by his desk. Nakai, I take it KATAWA's in the infirmary now.
Yeah, I took her there. The nurse said I should let her rest.
Mutou nods, assuring me that I made the right call. He scratches his chin for a second before rising from his desk. Everyone, I want you to continue with the exercise. Nakai, I'll see you in the hallway, please. His speech is hushed, but overall he doesn't seem to be acting too differently from how he usually does. Being a teacher, maybe it's to be expected. As we go into the hallway, I notice him taking a quick glance left and right to check if there's any students milling around. The hallway is almost soundless, but I can't think of anything except waiting for Mutou to speak. Nakai, what do you think the purpose of the school is?
To cater to the needs of disabled students?
Mutou scratches his head as he shakes it. No, if I wanted to do that, we would have built a whole new school from scratch. One floor, talking whiteboards, that kind of thing. Look around, Nakai. This school is about giving you all a future that you would have been denied in regular education.
Huh?
Think of it this way. If I wanted you to graduate and go straight into a hospital, do you think we'd put in this much effort? The bluntness of Mutou's statement temporarily stuns me, causing me to forget about the immediate situation.
Oh.
That's right. We want you all to leave here as useful members of society.
I'm not quite sure I'm following you.
I have high hopes for you, Nakai. You are possibly the first student I've had that gets my lectures. That isn't something that a teacher should be admitting so freely. You could easily take your studies of science well into university. Have you, ever considered that?
Can't say I have.
Well, what have you considered, for your future, that is?
I can't say that I put much thought into my future.
For a moment, I'm distinctly reminded of Lily questioning me about the same subject. It's only been a little over 5 months since I was gasping for air on the ground. It's too soon for me to be thinking about the future, and besides, Hanako's problems seem much bigger to me right now. Mutou gives a disapproving sigh before continuing. Think of this place as an opportunity. Here you have boundless facilities, good teachers, plus the added bonus of the nurse and his staff. You should be doing nothing but thinking of the future.
Right.
As I raise my head to meet his gaze, a thought occurs to me. It's almost like Mutou totally sidestepped the issue at hand.
Excuse me, but why do none of the staff seem to care when Hanako skips class? I've seen you watch her walk out of class more than once. Shouldn't you at least say something?
Well, Nakai, it's not really that simple. Every student here has special needs. If it weren't for that, then they wouldn't have a school here. For example, I wouldn't keep you in class if you were having trouble breathing, would I?
That's not.
Mutou cuts me off before I can even think about finishing my sentence. Because Owaskes is very much like that. But instead of CPR or a pacemaker, what she needs is time and space. The faculty was made aware of this from the day she arrived here. Thus, whenever she feels the need to leave classes, we let her do so. And even though she isn't a star pupil, she seems to pass all of her exams, so it hasn't affected her ability to study. Isn't that enough? I open my mouth to protest, but I can't find a fault in this argument. While her condition does at first seem to be wholly physiological, its worst effects have been on her psyche. It still puts me off, though. Isn't he just passing on the responsibility for her problem? Surely she can't go like this for her entire life. I understand that you might not be used to this kind of thing yet. It's been a big change for you. That said, it's less than a year until graduation now. Maybe you won't have to get used to this school. If you keep your head down, I'm sure you'll do well enough in your exams. I numbly nod, more to simply acknowledge that I'm listening than out of agreement. I feel like I was getting used to this school, but it feels like I've just been thrown back in my face.
What about Hanako?
I believe, well, I hope, that she'll perform well enough to do what she wants to do. What that is, I don't know. Not all students leave school with an idea of what they want to do, unfortunately. He takes care to emphasize the last word, as if it wasn't quite clear enough already, and gives me a moment to mull his words over. Today's been a troublesome day for you, and I doubt you'll be able to concentrate much today after all that's happened, so I'll allow you to take the rest of the day off. Your grades have been good in this class so far, which makes me think you won't have any trouble catching up on what we've been doing. He gives a small smile along with his praise, as if to make up for the seriousness of his lecturing before now. Go collect your things, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Mutou's roundabout speech has left my thoughts scattered. I'm still not any closer to working out what I can do to help Hanako, if anything. And my mind is all the more confused after what Mutou said. I'm also still bothered by the fact that Hanako was helped at least as much by Suzume, her enemy by proxy, as by myself, but I don't know whether this is just male bravado or a genuine concern. While I collect Hanako and I's things from the class, I continue to try and sort out my feelings. Alright, you take over from here for a second. Was auto mode too slow for you last time I put it up, or
A little bit, yeah, if you want to do it a little bit faster.
Alright, I'll put it neutrally.
Sure.
Also, there's Misha in the chat. How you doing?
Hello.
Alright, return.
Hello.
Yep, alright. Auto mode.
Alright.
I'll be right back. I'll let these fine folks carry them. I know they can.
Enjoy.
Full confidence.
I wish I could. I lay on my bed trying to collect my thoughts. After Hanako's panic attack, I found myself fundamentally reassessing the relationship we share, and what I know about her. I had a hard enough time dealing with 4 months in the hospital. One look at her scars tells me that she was in one for a lot longer than I was. Be that as it may, I know next to nothing about her past. She has told me about the house fire, but only in the most basic way. And what of her family? I still haven't asked Lily about them. There hasn't been a good opportunity to bring it up. I don't know where she grew up or what her old school was like, nor of her past friends, her wishes and ambitions, not even her taste in music, food, and movies, all the little things that I knew about all my old friends. What have I been doing? For all this time I've been with her and Lily. In the distance, I hear the bells signaling the end of classes. With any luck, Lily will soon realize that neither Hanako nor I are around, and return to the dormitories. My mobile phone starts to ring, cutting my thinking short. It quite startles me, as I've rarely been called since coming to Yamaku. Hello? Hisa Nakai speaking.
Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, wow. Sorry, I was doing. Oh, Hisa, I'm glad I found you. Oh gosh, you weren't in any of our usual places, so I thought this would be the fastest way to contact you.
I probably should have guessed it would be Lily, as she was one of the few people I'd given my number to. Even through the phone, her voice sounds slightly on edge. Hanako and I left class early. She had some kind of panic attack. The line goes silent. If it weren't for the background static, I would have thought Lily had hung up on me.
I understand. Could you come by my room? I'd like to talk with you.
Sure, I'd appreciate the chance to have a bit of a talk, actually.
Good, good. I also have some bad news. I think we should discuss this in person.
It's hard to grasp the seriousness of the situation from Lily's tone. She sounds so calm most of the time, but that could be a good or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. Okay, I'll be right there. I collect Hanako's school things from my desk and head straight for Lily's room. I rap my knuckles on her door, and she soon calls me in. Lily sits at the table inside her room, looking a little worse for wear. I guess that's because of the bad news. Following her gesture of invitation, I sit across from her and lay Hanako's things on the table.
Well, there's no point in either us waiting. Would you mind going first, Isao? What happened today?
My memory of the incident is already beginning to fade, but I explain it as best as I can to Lily. Inviting Hanako to work with the group, Shizune and Misha's questioning, our foray to town getting discovered, and the subsequent panic attack. I add Shizune's reaction almost as an afterthought, but Lily seems to take kind of comfort in hearing about it. I guess rivals don't become rivals for no reason. There must be some history there, but now isn't the time to explore it.
She said her therapist sessions were helping, but I had my doubts. It's quite a shame. Her birth has caused problem before, but I'd hoped that she would improve with you around, and the more intensive therapy. Where is Hanako now?
Last time I saw her, she was in the infirmary. I guess she's gone back to her room by now.
She wasn't in the library or the team room when I checked, so I can only assume that too.
You said you also had some bad news? What's the matter? Does it concern Hanako? Lily shifts her position, the body's way of saying she's searching for the right words.
My aunt fallen gravely ill. I'm afraid I'm heading back to Wales to visit her, and to spend some time with my family.
What? Is she alright? When do you leave?
I'm not altogether sure of exactly how she's faring at the moment. And the last I heard, she was stable. I'll be leaving Saturday. It's the earliest flight I could get.
Abel. That's code for needs to stay in the hospital. I've been stable long enough to know that, and to know that it doesn't necessarily mean someone is in good condition, but merely treading water. On the upside, stable is much better than critical condition. At least, she's not on the brink of death. Stable. That's a relief.
Yes, but this means I won't be here for Hanako's birthday. I wanted to tell you now so we could think of something before we told Hanako. But after today's events, I'm not even sure there's going to be an issue if we simply cancel the party.
I don't think that is such a good idea. Hanako already knows that we were planning a party now. To go back on that seems like the wrong thing to do. Also, we should do something for your going away, right?
You make it sound as if I won't be coming back. If all goes well, I should only be here for a week, but possibly two.
That's one relief at least.
With that in mind, what do you suggest then?
In the circumstances, I don't think karaoke is really appropriate. You're not going away for the greatest of reasons, so having too much fun would feel wrong. What did you do for her birthday last year?
Last year, I literally couldn't get her out of her room. She'd locked the door. All I could do was leave food outside for her, making sure that she was at least eating well.
This is perhaps the most depressed I've ever seen and heard Lily act. I feel sorry for her, given how defeated she must feel to be unable to help her closest friend. Perhaps it would be better to throw the party before you leave then.
That does sound like it would be the easiest option.
I think we should at least tell Hanako, both about your trip and her party. I have her things from class as well.
That's a good point. Should we go and visit her now then?
I think that would be a good idea. Part of me is dying to see Hanako. Last time I saw her, she looked like death, walking. And these last few hours have torn me apart just thinking about that. I quietly get up and file out of Lily's room. Hanako's room is next door in the same hallway.
Alright, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you for covering for me. Anyways, knocking lightly gets us no response, but the door proves to be unlocked. Lily pauses for a moment as the handle unexpectedly moves under her hand, before opening the door. Hanako's room is startlingly bare and monotone. There are no decorations on the plain white walls, a plain dark blue blanket, and only a few books, papers, and purely utilitarian items on the shelves. Even her bedsheets are monochrome. The entire room feels as subdued as Hanako's character. Hanako herself is laid curled up on her bed. She may not be crying now, but her eyes are closed tightly to stop herself. And the tracks left by her tears still set on her reddened cheeks. I quietly walk in and set her bag down on her desk, afraid of startling her too much.
Hello, Hanako. Isao told me what happened today. Are you alright?
Hanako's eyes open, though, only a little.
I'm okay.
She tilts her head slightly to look at me, noticing my grimacing before I can hide it.
Sorry for making you worry. Really, I'm fine now.
She really doesn't look nor sound okay, though. At least she seems more calm than she was before. She still looks as though the slightest breath could emotionally break her.
You said it before, right? You don't need to be sorry for this.
Sao's right. I shouldn't have hidden something like a birthday celebration from you.
I see Hanako shiver at the word. Lily picks up on the silence that follows and crouches down to Hanako's level.
I know I should be sorry, Hanako.
Hanako's eyes open to peer at Lily. She looks at Lily for some time, taking in her face with these dark, analytical eyes of hers. Lily must have made the right impression on her as Hanako recovers enough to prop herself up on the bed and shift to sitting on its side. Hanako worries about many things, but troubling others is the foremost among them. Hearing Hanako shuffling, Lily moves forward and feels out the side of the bed, eventually taking a seat beside her and taking Hanako's left hand in both of hers. The feeling of me being out of place when the two are together has lessened in the time we've known each other, but it's still occasionally very much there. This is one of those times, I think.
Lily, if you want me to go...
I don't want that.
Lily and I are both surprised at Hanako mustering her courage. A half-mumbled okay is all I can give her in reply, and I think her desk chair to sit in.
Hanako, I'm afraid I have some bad news.
So, Lily's gonna break the news now. With Hanako having affirmed our relationship so clearly, perhaps Lily thought the timing was good, or at least as good as it'll ever be.
My aunt has fallen ill, so I need to return to my family for a time.
Concern replaces Hanako's remorseful expression.
Your family? You mean in Wales, right?
Nice, you got it the first time, and I'm impressed.
That's right. Akira and I will be leaving Saturday.
So you're going away?
I won't be gone for long. Probably only a week or two. Be back before you know it. And Estelle will be here, right?
Right. I'm not going anywhere.
Hanako seems to take only minor comfort in this, but she does manage to summon some resolve from somewhere inside her.
Is your aunt going to be alright?
I'm not sure.
Silence falls. It's surprising that the thing that truly brings Hanako out of her rut is another's misfortune. I decide to bring up the other matter that brought us here, to distract at least in part from the dismal feeling permeating the room.
Anyway, we were thinking that it would be a good idea to have a going away party for Lily, and it could double as... yeah.
I cut myself off before mentioning her birthday, as that seems to be a trigger for such fierce emotions within her. Lily gives Hanako's hand a gentle squeeze.
Is it alright by you, Hanako? It won't be anything lavish or overdone. Just something small in my room.
So just in the school? Just us?
That's right, just the three of us. If you like, I could ask Akira to come as well.
Oh, okay. You're only going for a week?
1 week or two, yes. I promise you it won't be any longer.
Okay.
Most people would be upset at hearing about a friend's family member falling ill and happy at having a party, but with Hanako, it seems that both events are on the same level.
Alright then. You look like you need rest, Hanako. So it might be best if we all just went back to our rooms for now.
You know if you ever want anything. You can always talk to me with Hisao, right?
Lily's voice is pensive, an unusual edge for someone as confident in herself as she is.
I understand. Thank you, Lily. He's out.
Well then. Good night, Hanako.
Night.
I let out a long breath after the door closes behind us. It feels like I've been under. It feels a little like I've been deep underwater, and I've only now been able to come up for air. Lily doesn't seem to be doing well either. She looks pale and drawn.
You alright?
I'm just a little tired. It's been hectic recently.
You slept at all? A little tired sounds like an understatement, given how you look.
I think I managed to get a couple of hours of sleep before class. I'll be okay.
I feel bad about pressing Lily right now. I think both of us are pretty tired from everything that's happened as well.
I think you should get some rest. It's been a big day, and staying up isn't good for your complexion.
Thank you for considering he's well. Good night then.
Okay. Night, Lily.
I leave Lily in the hallway as she opens the door to her room and begin to make my way to my own. As I walk down the quiet hallway, I can't get that image out of Hanako out of my mind. Huddled and pitiable, lying helpless with tears on her cheeks. I began to think that she was a normal, if extremely shy person, but her problems run much deeper. Trying to take our relationship further than what we share now, when she's so fragile and vulnerable, wouldn't be right. I don't need to be more than a friend in order to protect her, to try and stop anything like this ever happening again. The possibility of my feelings for her going beyond that doesn't matter anymore. Hanako's precious to me, and that's why I can't take advantage of her. But even so, there's still that sting I feel when I think that way. For now, I need to sleep. Tomorrow, hopefully, will be a better day. Hanako's more noticeable in her absence than when she's in the room. I feel her empty desk calling out for me. I find myself peering over my shoulder endlessly, hoping that I'm hallucinating and that Hanako will magically appear. She makes sure she's as small a presence as possible when she attends class, and although she's been getting better recently, that fact never changed. Nobody ever pays her any heed in class, and now that she's not here, they don't notice her absence. It's as if she just never existed. Well, they did say that her skipping class wasn't an unusual thing before I met her, but it's still very off-putting. The bells heralding the end of school make me jump in my seat. It's only now that I notice Misha's prodding me on my side with her mechanical pencil to get my attention.
Hello? Is anybody in there?
Hey, stop that.
Ah, there we are. Welcome back to Earthy-chan.
1 second, I'll be right back.
So we're reversing it, am I taking over for you, or?
Real quick, I'll just be back.
Alright.
But yeah, if you want to take over for me.
Sure, alright. What are you talking about?
You keep dazing off into space. I was beginning to think you might be trying to contact alien life.
I really didn't get much sleep last night, so I don't doubt Misa's words. I'm not sure whether it was due to my medicine side effects, Hanako's panic attack yesterday, or me worrying about her in general, or all three. I yawned tiredly before resting my chin in my palm, having been reminded of how badly I slept.
Hey, are you really alright? Yesterday kinda rattled me as well.
Yeah, I guess. I wanted to speak to Hanako again, though.
Did you see her last night?
Yeah, Lily and I talked to her. And this may sound a bit weird, but can you tell Susan a thank you from both me and Lily? I know Lily didn't technically thank Susan, but I could tell by her reaction last night that she wanted to. At least, that's how it works out in my head.
What I think Shi-chan is trying to say is, you're welcome.
The furious signing in Suzune's reddened cheeks tell me that what she said was entirely different. Her blatantly flustered expression is amusing enough to make me chuckle.
What's so funny, Hee-chan? Was it something we said?
No, that's not it. I was just thinking about how cute Suzune can be at times.
You're right. Shi-chan is really cute when she tries not to be.
I noticed that Misha decides not to sign her response to Suzune. Maybe Suzune's rage is enough of a counter to any quantity of cute. Nevertheless, Suzune quickly calms down and signs something else to Misa.
Oh? Okay, Hee-chan. Shi-chan wants you to come and have dinner with us.
Dinner, huh?
Dinner, eh?
You're back.
Yeah, sorry.
That's alright. Turning away from them a bit, lest I be swayed by their pleading smiles, I begin to mull it over. The invitation certainly is tempting. Takeaway dinner with two cute girls isn't a bad thing after all. The thought of Hanako locked up in a room, though, keeps dancing on the edge of my mind.
Sorry, I'll have to pass.
Aww.
Misha doesn't sign my response, but Suzune picks up on it easily enough and grimaces in disappointment.
Oh well, it's your choice, Hee-chan.
Whoops. She moves her arms, assumedly beginning some form of either protest or coercion, but stops herself and taps Misha's shoulder twice. Once Misha gives Suzune her attention, the only statement Suzune has on the matter is a shrug.
Aww. Oh well, it's your choice, Hee-chan.
Promise I'll join you two another time, if that helps.
Misha perks up at this, but Suzune doesn't share her reaction. With a flick of the head to signal for Misha to follow her away, Suzune simply raises her hand to silently wave me goodbye. As the two make their way out the door, I return the gesture until they're out of sight. I didn't think they'd be so disappointed, and it makes me feel a little bad for ditching them. Still, I have things to do. The girls' dormitory is especially rowdy today, with a number of girls loudly playing games and watching the television in the common room on the first floor. I can hear their voices even now, standing in front of the Hanako's door. It's an odd contrast to the emptiness of the floor she's on. The voices from below make the emptiness feel all the more lonely. I had hopes Hanako would be in class today, especially after the talk Lily and I had with her last night. But I feel like I shouldn't hold it against her. It was a pretty awful episode, and to have experienced it firsthand must have been all the worst. Not knowing what state she's in, I take a small breath before getting a few sharp knocks on her door. All I can do is stand and wait, doing my best not to feel anxious. As the seconds wear on, I begin to think she might be asleep and didn't hear me knocking. The door handle rattles a little before I can raise my hand to knock again, though. The door opens a sliver, and eye appearing in the gap, only just large enough for it to peer through. I'm sure this girl would install a peephole at her dormitory door if only such a thing was allowed. I just stand and smile at her. I don't think words would really help here, after all. The act is returned in kind, with Hanako wordlessly looking at me. The gap's not wide enough to see her expression, and I can only guess what she's thinking. Time passes as we look at each other, the only sound being the disembodied gaiety from the ground floor. I'm not sure how long it takes, but eventually the eye moves away. I keep wondering whether she'll let me in or shut me out until the door slowly begins to creak open. Now that I have a full view of her in her bedroom behind, the first thing I notice is that Hanako's hair is quite damp. She's recently showered, which is made even more obvious by the scent of shampoo wafting towards me. The look on her face seems one of curiosity, as if she's not really sure what to make of me. Even so, I'm not really all that sure of what she's thinking. I feel as if she's gone away for a long time, and having now returned, neither of us knows what to say to the other. Hanako realizes she's staring, looking away awkwardly before turning to the side and gazing at her feet. I decide to take it as an invitation and step past her into the room, closing the door behind me as I do so. I can see her hands fiddling in the folds of the oversized gown that hangs from her shoulders. I try to concentrate on what I want to say, but the scent from her aisles my senses. To my surprise, it's not me, but Hanako that breaks the silence.
Why?
Because,
Why did I come here? I was worried about Hanako, so I came to her room. She let me in as I'd hoped, and then... What? What did I mean to do? What did I mean to say? Why didn't I think this through before coming here? I wanted to make up for what I feel I caused, at least partly. I want to try and remove the distance I feel between us since then and to see her happy. How can I do that when I don't know the first thing about her? I wonder if this is how Hanako felt when she saw me lying in that sterile, pastel blue hospital bed. A deep sigh steadies my nerves a little and ends by stammering. I don't think I've ever felt this nervous around someone before. When I'm like this, I don't think I can lie. Even if I could bring myself to, Hanako would see through it right away.
I don't know. I just wanted to see you, I guess.
Her fingers stop moving, giving me a little surprise. Looking up to her face, she gives a sweet smile and a nod. That was a satisfactory answer for her?
Since you're here, I'd like to play a game of chess with you.
I almost hang my head in disbelief that all she wants to do, after I've been winding myself up so much, is play a game. Looking at her face, though, a tentative smile perched upon it. I realize this is more than that. She could have not bothered answering the door. She could have shut it as soon as she saw my face. She could have asked me to leave. She could have rejected me at many points, but she didn't. Now, with this calm face, she wants me to play the same game that we played when we first really spent time alone together. A feeling of relief washes over me. Everything will be alright. Hanako's let me into her world. As long as we can be together like this, I think everything will be alright.
It would be my pleasure.
The day of Hanako's birthday party is finally here. To be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing Hanako and Lily in their pajamas again. Hanako's gown has grown on me as looking rather cute, though a bit conservative, and Lily's shorts and thin silken top are a lovely combination. But the image is stained a little with the memory of Hanako's reaction to it. I still don't really understand what happened, only being able to vaguely guess at the possible reasons for it, but I don't think finding the answer will be as straightforward as asking her. With that in mind, I knock on the door next to Hanako's.
Is that you, Hisao?
Yeah, it's me.
I can hear the pitter-patter of footsteps coming to the door, followed by the sound of the lock snapping open. I don't think I've ever seen Lily's door locked before, and it makes me a little suspicious. Once the door opens, the sight is a little underwhelming for a birthday party. Hanako returns to her seat at the table with a quick smile and a nod, leaving me to close and, assuming they wanted it to be kept that way, lock the door. As I do so, I realize that the scene before me is that of an evening tea party just like any other between the two. Somehow I don't think I should be surprised. To my relief, Hanako looks relatively calm. The break from class has probably done her good and given her time to wind down a bit. I take a seat between the two at the low table in the center of Lily's room, the brightly colored teapot steaming away between us. A tall brown bag close to Lily's side catches my attention. I covertly try to glance inside it a couple of times, but I can't get a good look from there. Looking to Hanako, it seems she's just as curious as I am.
Hey, Lily?
Lily finishes off the teacup race to her lips before setting it down and giving me her attention.
Yes?
I was just wondering about that brown bag.
She pauses for a moment, then gives a slight cheeky smile.
That would be Akida's present. Unfortunately, she said she was working and can't join us.
Lily leans over and feels out the item inside before raising her arm. I raise an eyebrow as 2 items, not 1, rise on the bag. The glass necks are grasped by Lily on either side of her middle finger. So this is why she had her door locked.
Wine.
There are 2 small thoughts as the bottles are brought to rest on the table. 1 red, 1 white. I want to believe that it's fake, non-alcoholic wine, but if it was, there wouldn't be any need to keep this to be this circumspect.
Alcohol? Seriously? Are you sure this is a good idea?
Lily smiles politely and giggles. I'm not really convinced that she is.
These would be the present for my sister. I know it's a bit questionable, but a little shouldn't hurt.
If Lily took serious issue with it, I don't think she'd have agreed quite so easily. That aside, I had Akira squared as the serious and responsible type. Maybe like an older Lily, but it looks like I was wrong. We aren't even legally able to drink yet.
Oh, in that case, I won't complain. They don't look bad either.
I'm no connoisseur, but at least the bottles look nice. Apart from a surreptitious glass of wine or 2 given from my father at family dinners, I haven't really had enough to know what's what. That and I can't really say that I'm a total straight edge. Going by Hanako's expression, she's thinking the same, and it's her birthday anyway.
Can I open one?
Sure, look at... My heart skips as I hear 3 sharp bangs coming from Lily's door. Hanako's head flicks around, and Lily's eyes close up as she listens intently. None of us want to be busted for this.
Who is it? Let me in, I'm cold.
Lily lets out a resigned sigh before motioning for Hanako to open the door. She obediently gets up and fusses with her gown before moving, apparently still not quite sure of who it is, but trusting enough in Lily to do as she requests. I can just see a blonde, dark-shaded figure become visible over Hanako's shoulder as she opens the door.
Happy birthday, Hanako.
Thank you, Akira.
Hanako gives a small bow while twiddling her fingers in front of her. So this is Lily's elusive sister. Akira follows Hanako to the table after shutting the door behind her, giving me plenty of time to have a good look at her. She looks to be about the same height as Hanako and has short blonde hair that's quite roughly cut. That, in addition to her rather modest breasts, masculine suit, and deep voice, gives her quite an androgynous effect. Without further ado, she plops herself down on the side of the table across from me.
Nice to have your company after all, Akira. Did work let you off? Yeah, I have to go back down there in a bit though, but I managed to get enough of a break to drive down. So, just be Sal then?
A confident smile gets thrown in my direction, so I nod politely in return. Considering she just jumped straight to using my first name, she's much more informal than her appearance would suggest. Wait, if she already knows who I am, that must mean Lily's talked about me with her. I wonder what she said.
Sorry for not introducing you, Hisao. This is Akira Sato, my elder sister.
See. Nice to meet you.
The person in question loudly claps her hands together, making Hanako jump a little bit. Akira notices this and looks uneasy for a fraction of a second before getting back into her stride. Only now do I realize that Akira hasn't paid Hanako's scars any undue attention. Hanako also seems to be comfortable, if not entirely relaxed, around Akira.
Well then, I assume sorry. I assume the presents got through. No point in waiting, considering Sal and the birthday girl looked like they're pretty eager.
Lily giggles as I awkwardly turn away, a little embarrassed by the fact that I couldn't hide my interest. Hanako's eyes are telling me that she wants to try the wine together with me, though, so I settle for a look of badly feigned indifference. Akira manages to uncork the first bottle with small effort, and Hanako goes to get some glasses before I get to pour the four of them full of white wine. I heard somewhere that white wine has less alcohol than red wine, so I think it would be best to start with that.
Here's to Hanako and to Lily's ship.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been pretty impressive if you managed to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Then again, they can clone sheep, so it's not completely out of the question.
You sure about that?
No, you can look it up. Anyways.
I know they have, I know.
Anyways.
Imagine. Too.
Yeah.
Cheers.
After the traditional raising of the glasses, we all take sips of that pale yellow liquid. It's nothing like the stuff I've had with my parents, with the fruitiness of the flavor almost entirely hiding the taste of alcohol. Maybe this is just what proper wine is supposed to taste like. Then again, it's possible that Akira just chose a wine which would be suited to our taste, since none of us are used to alcohol yet. Or at least I hope none of us are.
This isn't too bad. I was expecting something harsher.
If you wouldn't liked it, I bet there were other varieties you could have chosen from.
You sound like you know your stuff when it comes to wines.
Nah, only a bit. I'm more of a beer kind of person. I have the drinking down proper pat, though.
As if to prove her point, she refills her glass before bringing it to her lips and flicking her head back. Hanako and I silently watch as the whole glassful disappears down Akira's throat. I can't decide whether to be impressed or put off, but I certainly don't have any urge to imitate the act. Lily grimaces slightly at her sister's boast. I note that she's sipping from her glass as she does, though.
Anyway, now that Akira's gift has been opened and sampled, shall we move on to ours?
Gifts?
That's right. We got you presents. It's your birthday, after all. This is from me.
Lily pulls out the carefully wrapped doll from under the table and passes it to Hanako. Hanako handles the present as if it were glassware, carefully turning it over to remove the tape that binds the wrapping. Eventually, the paper falls from the doll, revealing the emerald green of the doll's dress.
It's beautiful.
I'm not sure what reaction I was expecting from Hanako. The near total lack of dolls in her room made me think she didn't care about them, but the look in her eyes now is something different. She turns the doll around with the same delicacy that she put on the wrapping, as if she was expecting it to fall apart in her hands.
I'm glad that you like it. Hisao picked it out, to be honest.
Hanako suddenly remembers that she's not alone in the room and shifts her focus from the doll.
Yes, I like it. Thank you, Lily. And Hisao.
Lily, I got you something else.
I reach into my bag and remove the wrapped chess set.
Here. Happy birthday.
Hanako carefully sits Lily's doll next to her and opens my present with the same care that she showed Lily's. Before long, the checkered squares of the chessboard are visible, and Hanako gently runs her fingers across the carved surfaces.
Oh!
Almost by accident, she triggers the catch on the lid, startling herself in the process. She opens it and retrieves one of the gray pieces. She seems as absorbed in the chess pieces as she was in the doll before.
They're coral. Natural coral, undyed. Or so I'm told.
Thank you, Hisao.
No problem. It's your birthday after all.
That's right. My birthday.
Once again, Hanako's reaction seems a little off, but she carefully closes the board lid. I notice Akira's smile beginning to look very strained. I wonder if she knows anything about what happened in class, given that she seems to be treading on eggshells around Hanako.
I'll have to play you again sometime.
I'll make sure I'll play you first.
She takes the doll she received from Lily and holds it to her chest together with a small chessboard, putting the piece on top. The act seems to settle her down somewhat, and we just sit in silence for a while. I think it's one of the few times I've seen her genuinely happy, cradling the friendship of two people closest to her, to her chest as tightly as she can.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Hisao.
In the process of thanking us, Hanako drops the chess piece and fumbles a bit in a rush to retrieve it. Once she finds it, Hanako puts the chess set down and nervously gulps at her wine. It's as if the real world suddenly rushed back into her consciousness, and her fastest escape from it was in a glass.
Hey, easy there. You shouldn't drink it that fast.
It is a party, Hisao.
Despite saying this, there's a slightly concerned edge to her voice. Eventually acquiescing, Lily proceeds to follow Hanako's lead, though not as eagerly. She looks to be taking small sips from her glass and letting the wine settle on her tongue before swallowing. I decide that this is probably the best approach and do the same myself.
Since this is kind of a going away party for you as well, I hope you enjoy your trip at least a little, Lily. Hopefully your aunt will be okay.
I hope your aunt is okay too, Lily.
Lily and I are slightly taken aback by Hanako's fervor to wish Lily well, despite her own familiar situation. I'm a little impressed.
My. Thank you both. I'll be sure to convey your thoughts to my family when I meet them. Yeah, sorry, I forget I'm both of them.
Alright.
It'll all be it'll be all okay.
Deep breaths.
It'll all be fine in the end, Lily. Don't worry about it.
Since the room's mood has become noticeably more sullen, I decide to try and move things along.
Well then, shall we start on the cake?
My tentative suggestion has the intended effect, everyone lightening up considerably.
Yes, please.
Cake? I didn't know there was any cake.
I picked one up before it came, along with some snacks.
Well done, Hisao. At least one of us remembered to bring some.
Everyone seems to welcome the distraction, so I retrieve the cake from my bag and start cutting it up. Mixing wine and chocolate cake isn't something that I thought would work well, but none of us seem to mind. Conversation is temporarily suspended as we start to eat. I was initially wary of this idea. After Hanako's panic attack, I expected the worst from tonight, but I think Lily's idea of giving her good memories of her birthday is working. That and also having it shared with her going away party. From Hanako's reaction to her gifts, I can tell she was really appreciative. Hanako tries to pour herself another glass of wine, but ends up spilling some on the table. She's had a couple by now, so considering that she's never had alcohol before, it's no wonder she's feeling a bit lightheaded.
Sorry, Lily. I didn't mean to make a mess.
Don't worry, I've got it.
Lily reaches sideways and gently takes the fussing Hanako in her arms, giving me pause.
Okay, Hanako. I'm just happy you're here.
Hanako gives only a faint nod in response. It's fitting, I suppose, that Lily would be the one to support her like this. I have no idea what Hanako would be like if she hadn't. Seeing that you like this makes me appreciate the fact that I'm privy to such an intimate moment. Even Akira can't help but smile at the sight. I never would have thought I'd manage to find new friends so quickly, and I'm all the more thankful that of all people, these two are the ones I befriended. They slowly break off from one another, Hanako regaining herself somewhat while I quickly get myself back on task. I find a towel among Lily's tea set and start mopping up the spillage. By the time I finish, however, Hanako and Lily have managed to uncork the other bottle and have topped off the glasses.
Looks like you're enjoying the wine then. Just don't go too crazy with it after this, mind.
We all dutifully nod and agree, but her reminder feels a bit silly given that she's the one supplying underage people with alcohol. The second glass of wine goes down a lot quicker than the first, and before any of us notice, the second bottle's empty. While Akira's helping us finish them off, Hanako looks to be almost equaling her in the amount she's had. My head feels a little light, but I think I've managed to gauge my own tolerance surprisingly well. Hanako smiles lazily, toying with her doll's hair. I think it's a pretty safe bet that she, hasn't moderated herself as well as I. I don't think it was Hanako's intention to get this drunk, but it seems that the alcohol hit her all at once. She has a very light frame, something which wouldn't help her handle her booze well either. Lily cradles her glass, running a finger along the rim. Her cheeks are rosy, but she's managed to avoid looking woefully drunk. Akira is, as I somewhat expected, largely unaffected. Her smile might be a little wider than before, though. Maybe. Hanako suddenly hiccups and accidentally knocks over the doll.
I think I should maybe go to bed. Thank you, Hisao. Thanks, Lily and Akira.
She slurs Akira's name pretty hard, barely avoiding breaking out into a giggle midway through. She's completely plastered, and I can't decide whether I should feel a little bad for not being amused at the state she's in. It really is bizarre to see her acting so carefree. It's a shame that it's only with the help of alcohol.
Yeah, let me give you a hand.
Akira begins to get up to help Hanako out, but she stops when Lily gives a sharp cough.
Hisao, would you please?
Akira looks a little surprised, and I have to admit that I am as well. I don't mind the crust at all, let alone when it's said with such a smile. It just comes rather unexpectedly.
Sure, no problem?
I pick up the chest set and help Hanako stand up. I do feel somewhat responsible for her, considering that other than Akira, I'm probably the most sober person in the room. She nurses the doll in one hand and offers me the other. We stumble out of the door into the hallway and into Hanako's room, Hanako bumping into me a number of times on the way. Inside the room, I flick on the light as Hanako turns her attention towards a shelf on her dresser. An elegant doll is sitting on it, staring into the bare room.
There you go. You'll be safe in here.
Hanako gingerly places the doll next to the other one and straightens its dress. They sit in silence, hair and clothes perfectly arranged, just like the teapot in Lily's room. They serve as a distinct contrast to the dull whites and grays that permeate her bedroom. Satisfied that her dolls, her only two real possessions, are safe, Hanako takes a step back and stands up, staggering severely. I step forward to catch her if need be, but she regains her balance without my help. For a while, both of us stand in silence as Hanako looks downwards towards the cupboard. After a minute or two, she begins to sway a little from side to side. It's very off-putting.
You going to be alright?
Hanako raises her head and turns around to me as if she's only just remembered that I'm also in the room. What's unexpected is that she takes 2 steps towards me and wraps her arms around my body, her head coming to rest against my chest. I can feel my heart beating as all of my senses feel like they're coming alive again, after they're deadening through the previous drinking. The smell of wine on her breath, the feeling of her fingers through my clothing, the sound of her hair underneath my chin. My hands remain out in front of me, not daring to touch her. The temptation is there to hug her, to embrace her, to tell her everything will be fine, but this feels wrong. Really, really wrong.
Hanako?
But I want to stay with you and Lily.
Hanako's slurring reminds me a bit of Misha. She probably wouldn't be pleased to hear that.
You know I can't. You're a girl, and I'm a guy after all. And Lily needs to sleep.
She gives a disappointed groan. It's so strange for her to act so forward.
Don't worry, I'll see you again tomorrow, okay?
I decided to rest a hand on her head to reassure her, deciding that this is as far as I'll allow myself to go in terms of physical contact with her while she's in this state. Hanako's head nuzzles against my chest. It makes me feel a little more uneasy with the situation, and as her arms tighten around my back, I quickly decide to bail out. I rest my hands on her shoulders and give her a firm but gentle push. Her grip tightens a little as I do so, but she eventually breaks off.
I don't want you to go.
Hanako, please. Akira and Lily are going to start thinking weird stuff if I take too long here.
It's perfectly true, too. I really don't want to take any chances, and I feel very uncomfortable right now. I shouldn't try to read anything into the way she's acting right now. I read that aside from alcohol lowering inhibitions, people can react to getting drunk in many different ways that don't necessarily reflect reality. And even without that, there are plenty of ways to interpret what she's saying. As long as she's safe, I'm going to try and get out of her room as soon as possible. Hanako hiccups again, looking a right mess as she stands and looks downcast in the center of the room. Her personality changed as she drank more and more, and now, all in a room with me, her previous brightness seems to have left her. Was she just acting upbeat to make sure we wouldn't worry? Even if she was, what could I possibly do for her since I do exactly the same thing in regards to my own condition? Distancing myself from my thoughts, I eventually managed to corral Hanako towards her bed, though her attempts to tame the wild sheets on it ended up accomplishing little.
Sorry about tonight, Hanako. I know you probably won't remember any of this, but happy birthday. I'm sorry I couldn't do more for you.
She looks up at me for a moment. I have no idea if what I said actually got through to her, but any chance to ask is lost as her eyes peacefully close. I sigh in relief before quietly backing away from her and leaving the room, flicking the light switch off as I go. I hesitate a little before opening the door to Lily's room again, quickly rehearsing what I should say if I get questioned about Hanako. After a few seconds, I still can't come up with anything. I open the door and make sure to close it behind me, lest any passing students catch a glimpse of the wine, before turning my attention to the two girls at the low table. Akira is casually smiling as is Lily. I welcome the change in the mood in Hanako's room.
Is that you, Hisao?
Yeah, I got Hanako to her bed. She's sleeping now.
That's good. I have to admit I hadn't thought that she'd drank quite so much. It is fine. She's all safe and tucked up in bed now, with the way she is.
She awkwardly trails off, though Lily and I would hardly protest. For someone so anxious and fearful, drinking would give an easy out from those constant feelings. I wish I could do more for her. I feel useless. Looking at Lily, I think back to what I asked myself in town. My relationship with her is that of a friend, and has only ever felt that way, but now I think I know why. Lily's been there for both Hanako and I since I first met her, but she's like that for everyone, trying to do her best to make them feel better. With that in mind, then what's the bond between me and Hanako? After rescuing our relationship following the panic attack I inadvertently triggered during class, I feel like we're back to being friends, but she's on my mind more and more. I can't say I view any other girl in quite the same way, but maybe it's just a normal reaction to someone acting like this.
Hey, Akira?
She yawns before looking at me. It's getting pretty late.
You know what happened. You know about what happened with Hanako, don't you?
Yeah, Lily told me. I negotiated pretty hard for a break so I'd come down and help make her birthday a bit brighter. We get along pretty well.
It's surprising to hear that from someone as extroverted as her, but if Hanako came to know her through Lily, maybe she had time to get used to Akira.
And on that note, I'd better get going. I'm already going to be a bit late as it is. But it's already so late. Sorry. We got a bunch of work dropped on us, so overtime it is.
She levers herself up with a grunt and heads past me towards the door. Just before she leaves, she turns back towards us.
You haven't forgotten the time of the flight and all the rest? Don't worry. I have everything ready. It's just a matter of packing when it gets close to the time to leave. Atta girl. I'll see you guys later then.
And with that, she disappears through the door with her hand held high in farewell.
Your sister is something, alright.
I probably should have thought that comment through before saying it. Regardless, Lily seems quite amused at my appraisal.
You okay after all that drinking? Not wasted and just hiding it well?
I assure you I'm quite alright. I can moderate myself. You seem quite self-possessed as well, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, well, I guess your moderation applies to me as well.
With a little hesitation, I take a seat at the table in front of Lily. I want to address it directly, if for no other reason than to set out my own thoughts.
I've been meaning to ask this, but it took me a while to make up my mind. Do you have any idea about what triggered that panic attack? I gathered it was something to do with her birthday, but I don't know anything anymore. Even Akira was being really careful around her, so I assume she knows as well?
Lily's smile drops, the gaiety of the birthday party now well and truly over.
To be honest, I'm not sure of all the details myself. Hanako told you that she was in a house fire. She told me as much after we met and spent a lot of time together. Other than that, she quite simply never told me.
He never told you?
Assuming the worst, what does she have to look back upon? A life of isolation, probably even the death of her family? Maybe even going as far as blaming her existence for their deaths?
Even thinking about what little I know of Hanako's past is bleak. To have lived through all that and to live on with those memories must be infinitely worse. Lily looks similarly depressed, but I can see her rebuild at least some of her composure before my eyes. I get the feeling that both of us are talking more frequently than we might otherwise do thanks to the wine, but it feels like just talking this out is a good thing anyway.
I feel kind of helpless about it. When it's put like that, what can I possibly do for her?
Not wholly sure to tell you this, but Hanako told me that you visited the day after we both went to check in on her. I must admit, I did not predict that she would take such a step so quickly after what happened. Nor did I expect you to. I think it was a nice gesture on your part.
It wasn't much, really. It's just, at times like this, I sometimes think it would be better if we never had to leave Yamaku, or at least this town. Things are so much easier without others around.
I didn't expect Lily to look quite so troubled at what I say, and for a while she looks lost in thought. She moves to speak, but stops herself as soon as she does and rethinks. It's a bit off-putting.
Tell me, do you have anything planned for Friday evening?
Friday evening? No. Isn't your flight to Wales the next day? I don't think it would be a good idea to tire yourself out before you even get there.
You're alright. You needn't worry about me. I'll do this tomorrow evening, but I imagine Hanako will be feeling rather off for a while.
The thought of how she's going to bed tomorrow makes me grimace. Maybe we should count our blessing that she didn't end up simply throwing up from drinking so much while having such a low tolerance.
Well, I'm going to be able to attend whatever you're planning. What is it?
Nothing unusual, I assure you. Just a little excursion. You better be off, Hisao. I can't last long at all until curfew is here.
Ah, damn, curfew. I completely forgotten. I look at the clock next to Lily's bed, but it seems to be in some oddity without written numerals. Which is supposed to make sense given Lily's condition. Not wanting to risk a haughty security patrol giving me a scolding, I get up and decide to go to my dorm, as she says.
Well, then, I guess I'll see you in Hanako tomorrow. Assuming the both of you manage to get up in the morning.
Thank you for concern, Hisao. Until then.
With that, I make my way out of her door and into the hallway. I hope her idea will be a good one. Let's find out. Hammering of a fist against the door feels like a nail being pounded into my head. Once, twice, 3 times, I let a long, annoyed breath out, and bear it while pressing my eyelids shut, firmly hoping for whoever it is to just go away. I feel pretty damn awful. My face feels like it's cast out of lead, my arms feel heavy, and I feel very nauseous. It's been like this since I woke up half an hour ago, and I can't summon the energy to pick myself up out of bed. So this is what they call a hangover. I wonder if perhaps this was the best treatment for teenagers who desperately want to try drinking as a way to feel like an adult. Considering how unpleasant this is, it's not something I want to repeat. A series of thumps rings out again, reverberating around the small room. I was just give up already. I have no intention of getting out of bed for them. Seconds pass, turning into minutes. Since no more knocks coming from the door, whoever it was must have left. Thank goodness. Looking at my clock, the time when I should really sit thinking about getting dressed and ready for class is approaching. I don't think I can manage it, though. I hate cutting class, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get much done at this rate. I can tell I look like a mess without needing to look in a mirror to confirm it, too. The morning rush has given me enough time to stand outside the classroom for a little while without looking too suspicious. I hope that Mutou doesn't ask any awkward questions about my not attending school yesterday. I was sick, that much is true, it's just the reasons for it that I have to hide. Confident I can get by with a tactical omission of certain truths, I stride into the classroom, doing my best to appear normal. The instant I open the door and take a single step in, I can feel a dozen eyes looking at me. There's no way I'm imagining this, or not even making any attempt to hide it. My eyes take a quick sweep around the classroom, and I spot Hanako. We make eye contact momentarily before she looks down and stares very hard at her desk. Did she spill the beans? Mutou may be okay as far as teachers go, but underage drinking on campus is not exactly something that would be taken lightly. I looked at him with some trepidation. Feeling better today?
Yeah, thank you.
He motions for me to take my seat, my legs feeling like sticks as they carry me there. This is gonna be a long day. As soon as the lunch bell rings, I'm on my way to Hanako's desk to ask her what's going on.
Hanako, did you tell?
She looks up at me and shakes her head. That's a big relief.
It's just...
Well, hello there, Hichan. It's nice to see you again today.
I grimace and turn towards the unmistakable voice coming from behind me. That was way too upbeat of a tone to feel comfortable even from Misa. Misa's happy smile is nothing out of the usual. It's just as though it was a very bad sign. The one she wears has become notched into my brain as her "I've got you 7 ways from Sunday" smile.
Hi, Shizune. Misha. You look happy to see me.
Not feeling well yesterday, Hichan?
No, I wasn't. But I'm feeling better now, at least.
That's good to know, Hichan.
I don't get the feeling Shizune is leading me into a trap.
You sound like you're not being completely serious.
Oh no, Hichan, we're genuinely pleased that you're all better now.
Shizune is positively overflowing with happiness. There's only one reason she would be like this. Oh no.
In fact, we were quite worried about you. After all, you, Hanako, and Lily were all absent from class on the same day.
Yep, she's got us so thoroughly that all I can do is sigh in defeat.
I guess you have your own theories about this. Could you just kind of not tell anyone?
It's a bit late for that, Hichan.
I suppose he's right, considering the looks I got as I entered class. Still, things only seem to be at the level of vague suspicion rather than outright accusations, so we'll probably be fine. Hanako's face sinks a little further. Such attention is troublesome enough for me, let alone for her. Going by Shizune and Misa's reactions, I think they noticed this as well.
The only reason why we were giving you such a hard time is that you ignored us yesterday morning.
Yesterday morning? It takes a while to recollect what happened then, given the haze induced by the generally awful state I was in at the time.
Oh, right, the knocking. That was you two?
It was, and you left us there for ages after we'd taken all the effort of coming to your dormitory early in the morning.
Sorry, I was having a problem with nausea. A problem with nausea.
They're not buying it. I can't blame them. Shizune's head drops in resignation before she reaches into her pocket. Something white and yellow can be seen sticking out a little, and as she pulls it out, it turns out to be an envelope with very bright decorations on it. Since she points it towards me, I duly take it.
This is what we were trying to get so hard to give you, Hichan. You don't check your...
I tune out the sound of Misha's voice as my eyes register what's written on the envelope.
Hanako.
I stare at the envelope for a moment before suddenly remembering that there are people around me. There's a very strange, somewhat invasive feeling about their expressions. I kind of want to be alone right now.
Iwanako?
It's nothing. Thank you for bringing me this, you two.
I should think so after what we went through to get it to you.
I step back and say my goodbyes. Misha theatrically pouts even as I go out the door, but Shizune and Hanako remain very visibly curious about my reaction. I hope they won't interrogate me on this later. The smell of the gardens is, as always, a very pleasant sensation. Some of the most visible signs of how well-funded the school is, aside from its sheer size, are the expanse and condition of the grounds. A good number of students can be seen eating lunch, chatting, and playing on the bright green lawns. Even some of the staff are enjoying the summer here, keeping watch over the students and idly walking along the long concrete paths. I'd never seen a sight like this in my home city. On excursions maybe, but certainly never in the school or anywhere near where I lived. Even the bench I sat on to read is warmer thanks to the summertime sun, reminding me of why I haven't worn the school blazer even once yet. Considering this, the sunflowers and splashes of vibrant yellow coloring adorning the paper are quite appropriate for the time. The words written on it were as well. Here I was thinking I managed to get over her when this troublesome thing shows up. Her handwriting looks vaguely familiar at best, and only now that I see it again, I remember that she was writing pink pen a lot. She was always very girly, for lack of a better term. But she was always quite fragile. I never knew if I liked this aspect of her or not, though with the arrival of this letter, that question seems to have become largely moot. The letter begins with not much more than an update on the state of things going on in her life. My own class had a good start to the school year, many are anxious about the exams that will be coming up in the future, etc. But it ends on a very personal, if brief note. It feels a bit like she wrote most of the letter just to try and soften the blow from the ending.
I wanted to somehow express my feelings, but the right words didn't come to me. I couldn't say anything to comfort you. I am really sorry for not being able to support you when it mattered the most, even though I like you so much. At least now, finally, I can be more honest. If I could go back to those quiet days in February and March, I'd tell you not to give up on yourself. That's what I would say. Maybe you wouldn't have drifted so far away if I had just said something. I hope you've managed to get back on your feet on your own. Now that the distance between us is also physical, it also feels more final somehow. I wonder if we will meet again. Perhaps it's for the best if we don't. Still, if you would like to correspond with me, by all means write me back. I'd very much like to hear about your new school and how you're doing. I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Hanako.
Wasn't expecting you to take the initiative on that, but sure. And so that's that. Our relationship is over. Nice, neat, and tidy with no ambiguity. I hadn't held on to any illusions I could ever begin anew. The last time she visited me, none of us said a thing except for the one word she said I should let for the last time. Goodbye. Be that as it may, this feels more final. The capstone on an experiment that both of us tried and failed at. A loud shout draws my eyes away from the letter. It's just some students swizzing around with one of the teachers standing nearby, coming over to talk to them. Are you okay? Oh, whoops.
Are you okay?
A tentative voice comes from my side. For a moment I assume it has to be Hanako, but it's actually Yuko.
Oh. Hello, Yuko. I thought you'd be in the library.
She gives a cheerful smile, one quite fitting of the atmosphere, and flourishes the empty wrapper of her roll in her hand. She must have something else cover her. She must have someone else covering for her while she grabs something to eat. It reminds me that I haven't had anything to eat yet. I don't feel hungry though, and skipping one lunch wouldn't hurt.
Mind if I sit here?
Sure. Go ahead.
I quickly slide the letter back into its envelope, slipping it inside my bag, propped against the side of the bench as Yuko takes a seat. She drops by the wrapper into a bin beside us. Without much else to do, I lean back and take what enjoyment I can from the sun, silently reflecting on the letter. The lush lawns, the clear blue skies. Everything looks so different from the way it did back then. Even the school's surroundings, from the hill it's on to the woods around it, are completely opposite to the urban scenery I remember. Maybe this is what it's like to feel homesick. Then again, it's not an outright bad sensation. The valley area around Yamaku, while very different, is also nice. I think I could get used to it.
Hey, Hisao?
Yeah?
You didn't answer my question from before. I wasn't going to say anything, but you still look troubled. If you don't want to say anything, though, that's okay. I don't mind at all. Sorry for asking something strange like that.
I don't mind. It's just I got a letter from someone I knew before I came to Yamaku. It made me think about some things. I thought I'd managed to get over most of the problems that my accident caused, but now I'm not really so sure. I kinda wish I'd never seen it.
I don't think that's good, Hisao. When my boyfriend left me, he did so very suddenly, and never let me know why. At first I was very depressed about it, but I decided to forgive him.
You forgave him? Couldn't he at least have talked properly with you about it?
He was always one of those people that found it difficult to come close to others. In the end, I decided that I fell in love with him for a reason. He was a good person, and I think that if I had been in his position, I would probably have found it just as hard to try and talk to him.
I don't really see the connection to the letter I got.
I mean that... how should I put this? It must have been very hard for that person to send that letter. And if they did, I think they must have thought very hard about exactly what to say.
And Hanako managed to write this letter and bring a final close to our relationship, something that I'd never managed to do. Whereas here I am trying to protect and help Hanako as best I can, especially with Lily leaving for a while, and I'm not even able to deal with my own problems.
Does that make sense?
She's taken my non-response and furrowed brow as doubt. She really reads faces. Jeez. She really reads faces too much, just like a certain other person.
Yeah, that makes sense. The letter was just kind of a shock, really. I think I'd try to fool myself into thinking that my life reset when I came to Yamaku. But now I'm suddenly aware that it didn't. I'm at a bit of loss about how to deal with these feelings.
I think that's something I can't really help you with. Sorry.
It's fine. I think being able to talk with you helped me get things sorted out a bit better in my head. So, thank you anyway.
She nods and smiles sweetly. Yuko's a nice girl, so it's a shame she's so highly strung so often. The school bell ringing startles us both.
I was supposed to be back before the bell.
Oops.
She jumps off the bench and almost races off without a second word, but turns on her heel as she remembers she was talking to me just now.
I'll see you later, Hisao. Cheer up, okay?
Hi, too. Thanks, Yuko.
With a quick bow, Yuko takes her leave and begins her rush to the library. Her flight catches the curious eye of a few passing students who are unenthusiastically trudging back to their classes after having their fun. Reluctantly standing from the bench, I dust myself off and join them. Alright. I gotta get up for like 30 seconds, but I believe I can just leave you guys to it if I leave it on auto mode.
Sure.
Alright.
Even while...
Sorry. Turning on auto
No, you're
mode.
fine.
Alright, be right
Do you want
back.
to shorten it a little bit more? No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Even while I walk through the gardens back to the main building, the thought of the letter in my bag doesn't stray far from my mind. The feeling of walking through the streets is one of very deep nostalgia. While Yamaku may be like the reverse of where I've lived in the past, the city at night is amazingly familiar. My eyes are moving constantly from the bright electronic screens glowing high in the night sky, to the street lamps piercing the darkness with their light, to the businessmen enjoying themselves after work and the busily talking couples on dates. Even if I didn't want to, I can't help soaking in every aspect of the city. I savor its familiarity like a sweet candy sitting on my tongue. Lily is walking to my left with her cane swaying to and fro, holding onto her sister's arm for guidance while talking to her. Compared to traveling by taxi or bus, being driven by Akita in her rather nice car was a much more enjoyable experience. Maybe not for the person on my right, though. While Lily was used to her sister's driving style, and I quite liked a bit of excitement, Hanako was holding very tightly to the door for most of the trip.
Everything looks so pretty at night.
Hanako quickly looks down yet again as she accidentally catches someone's gaze. Yeah, it does. My answer isn't very thoughtful, since I'm distracted by so many thoughts that I find it hard to keep up on small talk.
Alright, I'm back, pardon me. Alright. One of those distractions, aside from the city sights, is how Hanako looks. This is the first time I've ever seen her in something other than her school uniform or her pajamas. It gave me pause when I first saw her outfit when we met up at the school gate. Considering how much her head is lowered when people walk near us, I imagine that the hat she wears is more than a fashion statement. Well, honestly, I was worried of Lily's plan to take us out into the city. When night fell, it became obvious that she had thought about this. Not many people have paid Hanako much heed since the darkness hides her scoring well.
So, we're in the city. Any ideas on what to do?
Akira beams a smile. Something tells me that she's the one who is making this particular decision, even if her sister may have proposed the outing in the first place.
You'll see. Just follow us.
I nod and try my best to stifle a grimace. After what happened during Hanako's birthday party, I don't trust Akira's judgment all that much. We keep walking and I notice that we're passing more and more cafes, restaurants, and other eateries. Every once in a while, a drunken man in a stew comes out of a bar, usually being supported by another, but for the most part, the customers around this part of the city look young and fashionable. Different kinds of music come and go as we pass by each business. The discord created by the overlap should be grating, but it reminds me so strongly of the times I spent in the city with my old friends that I don't mind. Hanako and I have started to drift a little apart from Lily and Akira. That comes to a stop when I hear a soft thud from beside me.
Sorry.
By the time she rights herself from her apologetic bow, the middle-aged businessman she bumped into was walking away after mumbling a half-hearted apology. Hanako looks a little put off by the experience, and as she quickly skips ahead to match my pace, I notice her head hanging low once more. She probably bumped into him because she was looking downwards and not where she was going. I stepped to the side a little and put one hand on her far shoulder, drawing her closer.
Hisao?
It's okay. You can walk closer to me if you want.
Hanako hesitates, but eventually nods in assent. After a couple of times when I thought we'd arrived at Akira's destination, we reach our target. By now, we're below the elevated walkways and past the most garish and brightly lit places. I'm a bit surprised. The average age of those around us is distinctly older, and the smell of cigarette smoke is pretty thick. The area is far from seedy, though, and it's a little amusing to see Lila's reaction to the smell of smoke. While it's masked by the low talking of those around us, jazz can be heard emanating from inside. Look up at the dimly lit sign, it becomes obvious why.
Jazz club. I have to admit, this isn't what I expected.
Lily gives an amused snort and smile.
Somehow I feel like I should have known it, Akira.
As we talk outside, I notice more and more odd sideways glances directed our way. People walk where they catch themselves staring and looking away, but that just makes it more obvious. I had noticed this occasionally when we were walking, but it's more pronounced now. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. An average-looking Japanese teenage guy, just a little taller than normal, isn't the type to draw attention without making an effort.
Hey, come on. Just because you're teenagers doesn't mean you can't have a taste, right?
Well, I don't really mind the music, if that's what you mean.
I don't mind it either.
She's only just managing to force the words out. It contrasts heavily to what we're alone in Yamaku. I mean, it disappoints me a little that she's so highly strung for what's supposed to be a good time out on the town. It's hard to read Hanako's face as she keeps looking downwards. It's little wonder if she doesn't often come out into the city because of this, and it makes me a little thankful that my own scarring is easily hidden. Lily has a similar way of attracting people's gazes, but the reason for it is clearly different. She hardly looks like a native, and the same can be said for her sister. That much is far more noticeable than her blindness from a distance. She may not be able to see this for herself, but I have little doubt she can hear the odd whispered phrase from people who think they're out of earshot. Be that as it may, she doesn't seem to show any sign of either annoyance or pleasure at the attention. Akira is still as confident as ever, though. Flashing a smile, she strides in with Lily by her side and the two of us following behind. I'd expected my eyes to need adjusting to the light inside, but it's not much brighter than outside. The music we heard is clearer now, mixed in with the sound of glasses moving on the tables and counter and the husky chatter of the patrons. Looking to my right reveals the music's source, a jazz group playing behind some tables. The patrons seem to be mostly mid, and there's a handful of them, and nobody looks under 30. As are from us, of course. It feels a little like we've stepped into the 1920s, and the atmosphere is quite agreeable. I'm not completely comforted simply because of my age, but were I older, I'd probably feel quite at home. Hanako seems a bit more relaxed now, probably due to nobody looking at her. Everyone's talking between themselves, drinking, or watching the band. Akira casually takes a seat at the counter without even glancing around. She's probably come here before. Lily retracts her cane, feeling out the bar stool on the edge of the counter before taking a seat beside her sister. The bartender takes a brief break from polishing a glass to watch her before putting it down and coming over. Good evening, ladies. What'll it be?
Just a scotch. Thanks. Lily? May I have a glass of... May I have a glass of champagne?
A black-suited elbow hits her side sharply.
Orange juice, please.
No problem, coming right up. The bartender starts to pour their drinks. A couple of seconds pass before Akira suddenly remembers that Hanako and I are indeed here and turns around to us.
You two want anything, or are you just gonna stand there?
Hanako seems to be getting a bit restless. No matter where we're going to seat ourselves, there's going to be people right next to her, and I don't think she looks convincingly older than 20, unlike Lily. Looking around, there's a game section to our right. A couple of billiards tables can be seen in the corner, and nobody's using them either. I glanced at Hanako, about to ask her if she'd like to play, but she's already looking longingly in the same direction. Maybe it says something that we can get by with so few words nowadays.
We'll go play pool over there.
Sorry. Akira leans back to see past me before shrugging and sitting back up.
Seems you have to put up with only me for company. How unfortunate. How fun, you two.
We turn and set off for the abandoned corner with Hanako taking the lead. The prospect of a nice, quiet game away from everyone makes her walk noticeably faster. Her eyes stay firmly fixed on her prize. The table's full size and well lit despite the surrounding darkness thanks to the bright overhead lights. A huge painting of something covers the wall. There aren't many people milling about this corner of the club, and I can see Hanako becoming a little less tense as a result.
You know how to play?
I'm no expert, but yeah, I do.
Then, 8-ball?
Sure.
Hanako gets the chalk and 2 cues from a set of hooks against one of the walls, while I puts the balls from the table's pockets and grab the rack from a shelf underneath. She patiently waits as I set the table up. After slotting the final ball into the rack and doing some last adjustments, I end up having to fight my perfectionist urges and getting the bottom row of balls exactly perpendicular with the edges. With the balls arranged and ready for play, I step back and take my cue from her outstretched arm. I carry out a quick inspection of the tip before I'm satisfied that it's in good condition.
So, you've played before?
Once or twice. I just kind of know the rules.
The air between us feels a little awkward. She's still pretty nervous, understandably, given that we're in public. Eventually, the silence becomes too much even for Hanako, and she begins to quietly stammer.
Who break?
I think for a moment before reaching into my pocket and drawing a coin.
We'll take heads. Your tails.
After a nod of agreement from Hanako, I flick the coin up in the air, catch it, and flip it over onto the back of my left hand.
Looks like it's you that gets to break.
Hanako nods again before taking up a position at the end of the table. She's not usually this quiet around me, but I'm not wholly sure if it's because of the tidbit of information about her past that slipped out moments ago. The cue comes back in a practice gesture before smacking dead into the center of the cue ball with a thud. The white ball skids across the smooth green expanse before smashing into the carefully arranged balls at the other end. Balls skitter across the table at high speed. The break was good, with the balls being nicely distributed around the table. My eyes are already flicking from one to another to pick out the easiest candidates to pocket. Hanako retreats from the side and I take my shot.
Well done.
It's only after Hanako says this that I realize the ball I was shooting at sunk. I look at her and notice a small smile on her face. It's nice how playing games seems to loosen her up a little.
Some stripes then.
I take a step back and let her take the next shot, but she doesn't advance to the table. Rather, she looks down a little and rubs her arm. By now, I can identify this as one of her gestures that means she wants to say something, but isn't sure of herself to do it.
What's up?
It's just, you had a nice smile. Do you like playing this?
I sigh and lean back against the table.
I like playing, yeah. I think I was smiling because it's really nostalgic, though.
Hanako tilts her head quizzically.
Me and my friends used to play pool in the game centers near where we lived pretty often. And at night, too.
Wouldn't your parents?
My parents both worked, so they didn't mind me not being in the house. I stayed on top of schoolwork pretty easily as well, so there's plenty of time to do other stuff at night.
Our conversation dies down with Hanako's timidity getting the better of her. In response, I get off the table and let her take her turn shooting. There aren't many solids in easy positions, so Hanako bends down and takes a while to line herself up properly. Hanako's expression is the same as when we play chess, of relaxed but focused concentration. Athletes sometimes talk about getting into a zone where nothing unnecessary enters the mind, and I wonder if that's something she can do. Her posture is good, better than mine to be sure. It's very close to a textbook method of playing, whereas I tend to contort myself into whatever position I feel is most natural for the shot I'm taking. She lines up the cue. The cue comes back, and she does a couple of practice movements to make sure she's lined up correctly. Hanako takes games so seriously. It's the only real hobby I know she has outside of reading. It feels good to be able to share this kind of experience with her. She takes a shot after careful consideration, and the cue ball zooms off towards a ball sitting at a slightly awkward angle near a corner. Hanako's careful preparation pays off as the cue ball hits and sends the ball rolling towards a corner pocket. For a moment it looks like it'll stop just on the lip of the hole, but it eventually tilts just enough to drop in.
Man, that was a hard shot. If you can pull that off, I don't think I have much hope.
I'm not that good.
It's not just a shot, though. Even when lining it up, you looked really serious. Like this with chess, too.
Praise makes her a little flustered. She sets the cue against the table and stands, turning to me.
I just like those kinds of things.
Her fingers are twisting and turning tightly.
When I was in the orphanage, kept doing the things I liked before. If I played games with the others, that was enough for the helpers there, so...
I never thought about it that way. Staff at an orphanage would naturally want to have everyone socialize at least a little.
If it's okay for me to ask, what was it like for you at the orphanage?
Why do you want to know?
I've touched a nerve, but the fact that she responded at all shows there's at least a chance she'll answer my question. Before, she likely would have just shrunk away from it without a word.
I'll tell you, but...
What?
Could you tell me who... Hanako is?
Hanako? Oh, the letter.
I wonder how long she's been waiting for the right opportunity to ask me of this. I'm surprised, but I don't hesitate. Sharing information is naturally a matter of give and take.
He's someone I used to like.
Her nervousness subsided, and it was for the time it took to ask. Her curiosity is getting the better of her, and I feel a bit uncomfortable to question on this of all matters. There's no way I could spill all my feelings on Hanako here. I don't even know myself what my feelings regarding her are, even after talking to Yuko earlier, and I want to avoid the subject around Hanako. Hanako doesn't look overly satisfied with the awkward ending to the discussion, but thinks better of continuing it. So it was only just managing to ask me in the first place without knowing that I wouldn't want to talk about it. I moved to finally take my own shot, and the lack of talking between us is filled by the chatter of other patrons and the band at the other end of the club. Spying a shot that doesn't look too difficult, I try and shoot for it. The cue ball taps the ball, then the trajectory is about right, but I put in too much power. It grazes the corner of the hole and moves off to the side, just skirting the pocket. I grit my teeth a little. I was pretty good at this game, and it's frustrating to have deteriorated so much. I step back and let Hanako take her turn, glancing towards the counter where Lily and Akira are sitting. They're talking busily between themselves and seem to be having a good time. I turn back to Hanako as she takes her shot. With the same face as before, she lines herself up and sharply pushes the cue. Just as before, she sinks the ball she was aiming for. It drops into the side pocket more cleanly than her last, though, and looks as if she's getting a bit more into the groove of the game.
Nicely done.
She hesitates for a moment and begins to address me without turning her head.
The orphanage was nice. It felt a bit like Yamaku does, and the staff was really kind. But as the years went on, I realized something. I was different.
It feels strange to hear her speak so candidly about herself. She's audibly forcing the words out. It reminds me of when she insisted that she tell me about the fire. I almost feel that she has to tell me of such things if I'm willing to tell her about my own past. Her grip on the cue tightens as she continues to speak.
Most of the children there were up for adoption, just like I was. But unlike me, they gradually left, one by one. By the time I went to Yamaku, I was among the oldest children there. For a while, I helped with some of the younger children, but eventually...
I lay a hand on her shoulder. She's forcing herself by now.
Okay.
She looks mildly surprised for a moment, but then nods before setting her cue down and turning towards me.
Do you really think so?
Yeah, I think so. Even while Lily's away, I'll be around to protect you, right?
Hanako looks at me for a long time, and I'm taken a bit off guard. Her expression hasn't changed from before, still looking somewhat maudlin, and silences between us aren't unusual. I think it's the fact that she's holding such prolonged eye contact that makes this feel a bit odd. It feels as if she's judging me. It's a very strange, vaguely uncomfortable feeling.
Hanako?
I understand. Thank you.
She smiles and looks away a little, but it feels stilted. Hanako wasn't very good at faking emotions, and this is no exception. I move to the table and take my turn to try and distract myself, but it doesn't seem to work. Does she think I'm not up to the task of helping her? Is she disappointed in me? I'm probably overthinking this. While her silences are just an accepted fact of life by now, sometimes I do wish she'd speak more. With a thud, I send the white sphere careening down the table onto my target. Hanako sees what's happening just as I do. The ball hits hard, with the strike ball I'd intended to sink veering off towards the 8-ball. Sure enough, as both Hanako and I look on and bite our lips, they connect and the black ball rolls leisurely into a corner pocket. All I can do is sigh. It looks like Hanako's smiling again though, so maybe it wasn't for naught.
That was an awful shot. You win. Seems I'm getting pretty rusty after all this time.
Hanako bends down and begins to shoot the remaining balls into the closest pockets. I almost asked if we could play another game, but a quick check on my watch confirms that the night's getting pretty late. Lady and Akira appear to still be drinking at the counter. Seems like we'll have to drag them away.
Hisao?
I turn back to Hanako, who's still looking over the pool table shooting balls. Her voice sounds different from before.
I'm here for you as well.
I suddenly found myself blushing. It's only natural that she'd respond that way, given what I'd said earlier, but it's still a shock to actually hear it. Just what is my relationship with this girl? I want to protect her, to make her happy. I'm not really sure it's something like love, but I don't think those are the same kinds of feelings I have for Lily either. I feel sorry for her having gone through so much in her life. Her parents died in a house fire and she lived in an orphanage for much of her childhood. I can't even imagine that kind of life. But I feel like there's so little I can do for her, especially now that Lily's going to be leaving the country. Hanako and I finish tidying up the table and cues and pick up Lily and Akira on our way out of the club. Son of a bitch. I was hoping that wouldn't pick up. Anyways, it feels like something changed between Hanako and I. I can't quite place what it is, but Hanako is acting differently now. I feel like we're further apart, if anything.
So, you enjoy yourselves?
Hanako and I both nod and agree. The game was good, and we both did learn more about each other, so it's an honest answer. Lily appears to be a little distracted.
Worried about the trip, Lily?
She pauses before sighing and smiling weakly.
A little. It means quite a bit.
The comment turns to a clap on the shoulder from her sister. Hanako smiles back, too.
You'll be okay, Lily. I hope you can enjoy your time over there.
Thank you, Hanako. I'll try to. It'll be nice to be back with my family after all. No matter how brief a time it may be.
With that, the four of us begin to walk to the car park where Akira's car is. We continue to talk between ourselves, but it's mostly just small talk. Alright, I gotta get up for another 30 seconds on auto-moding. You still want to take me up on that, speed it up a little, or,
Yeah, if you want to speed it up a little.
Alright,
A little bit more, yeah. That's good.
right here.
Yeah, like a little bit. Yeah, that's good.
You got it.
Alright, cool.
Back in a moment. There we go. As soon as... There we go.
Right then, are you taking the bus, Lily? Lily motions to a large suitcase standing beside her.
I'll have to take this with me. So I booked a taxi. It'll meet in the school gates in about 5 minutes.
Ah, I see. Lily reaches down and feels out the handle of her suitcase. Its weight causes her some difficulty, so I quickly offer to take it myself.
That is awfully kind of you, Hisao.
There's no qualms about accepting, and I end up picking it up. It's not what I'd call light, but it's not exactly heavy either. I don't think I'll have too much trouble carrying it.
Well, thank you then. We should hurry though. If the taxi leaves, then we'll take quite a while to book a new one. Are you Hanako?
Yeah. Let's go.
We rush to the gate as fast as we can, only to find that the taxi has yet to arrive. Well, nothing like a bit of exercise in the morning. The nurse told me that I should be doing that.
I think he probably had other things in mind, Hisao. And probably with more regularity. Do you intend to be helping people with their luggage every day?
I guess not. It looks like we've got a bit of wait toys anyway. How long should we wait for the taxi before calling them again?
I would say another 10 minutes, but they've never let me down before. It's probably just a little traffic.
Okay then. So, how long is the flight to Wales?
About 6